Committee will now
Right
come to
after
order.
this
Will
for
the
lunch, right?
clerk please call the roll?
Alderman KREWSON, Alderman French, Alderman VACCARO,
Present.
Alderman Villa,
Here.
Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Ingracia,
Present.
Alderwoman Tyus,
Present.
Alderwoman Murphy,
Here.
Alderwoman Green,
Present.
Chairman Ortman.
Present.
We have 7 present, we have a quorum.
All right, we're back for Board Bill 308. And I guess what I'll start out with is Otis, being you were the first one to sign up.
You feel like you need to sit?
Sure, sit in the hot seat.
Would you want me to leave both seats up here? I can move to another one. Well, in case he has friends, I'll move over.
You can sit right
I mean,
here.
that's fine. If Otis, if you'll sit over on this side, he can get a better shot when you're
Okay.
talking, so.
All right.
Beans, we're all professional TV now.
Okay, lipstick and everything.
All right, you're on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Can I pass that down? On this side as well. What I'm passing out is a copy of the last annual report for the Clean Energy Development Board. Actually, it was the annual report for the contractor that implements our program. And so what I'd also like to do also is to share with you just some of the points that I'm going to try and make here today. Let me pass this down as well. And needless to say, I was very surprised when we learned of the board bill that is currently before you here. And but I want to give you a little background on what we currently do here in the city with regards to clean energy development and more certainly the Property Assessment Clean Energy Board that we have. And so for PACE, by ordinance 69056, the city established the Clean Energy Development Board. And that was in 2011. And since that time, a total of $4,200,000 in projects have been funded through the program. An additional 3.3 in projects have been approved in the process of closing. And so I wanted to share with you also who the members of the board are for the CEDB, the Clean Energy Development Board. And this is like the second edition of the board. We started off with a group, and we've had a small turnover, but the board is essentially those as you see it here. And so several bullet points that I wanted to focus in on here concerning the city joining the MCD. If enacted, the board bill would essentially transfer control and taxing authority from local hands to the PACE board in Jefferson City. This ordinance would remove oversight responsibilities from the city's Clean Energy Development Board concerning city PACE activity and grant these responsibility to a non-city governing body. If the considerations for choosing the best technology platform to implement residential PACE should be carefully vetted by the city and the Clean Energy Development Board, and to date the program has been overseen locally, it would be a complete reversal of a well-grounded and broad city policy for these functions to now be outsourced to a Jefferson City-based governing body. I also would like to say that it would bifurcate our programmatic oversight responsibilities for the city special assessments between the city's Clean Energy Development Board and the MOCED in Jefferson City. And this is referred to as a statewide board. I believe is what they're suggesting it is, and I believe they are. This would compete directly from a market and regulatory perspective with the city's comptroller's QECB, which was established to provide support for the residential component because there was some difficulty early on. And I think the focus of what MCD is providing and is indicating that they will bring to the table is a residential component that has thus far not been fully implemented. But there are a number of reasons why for that And we, because we now know that it can be done, we recently put out an RFP to essentially acquire a new administrator who would then bring that component to the table. And so that RFP is out there now, and it's one of the things that I think would be a viable alternative for us here, which is that anyone who's interested in providing these services can respond to the RFP, and the selection will be made of the best entity to provide the service. The existing PACE ordinance local control was expressed through the oversight body. The Clean Energy Development Board itself is self-evident, and I put that section 2 in there because it is essentially from the ordinance and what the original intent was. And so a couple of other points that I think I really want to make here is that I think as we understand it, there are 2 statewide PACE programs, the MCED and the Show Me PACE. Both are seemingly vying for counties and municipalities to join their district through, although both have been slow to complete projects. The preferred course of action is to allow our current program to continue operating with local control. And even if the city decides to eventually join a statewide district, it would be wise to compare the 2 existing ones and then compare that to our own existing program before any decision is made. So it is requested from our point of view that the bill be suspended until there is an adequate time to review and consider the implications of other districts operating in the area. And I sort of vetted this again with our board, who weren't able to attend, but essentially they all agree that it would be our recommendation that we allow the board to at least vet all of these programs that are vying to participate in the area. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Alderman Vaccaro?
I actually have a few. So, out of the 4 million, which goes back quite a few years, how much of that has gone to any housing, or is that all business?
It is all business.
And out of the 3 million additional, is that also all business?
That is all business at this point, but as I indicated, what we are looking to do is to revamp the program, giving the new abilities to focus on housing. We understand the need to do residential, and so we would, with the responses that we anticipate getting from those that will be applying to be our administrator, that we will be able to, in fact, bring residential to the table. We did not forget residential. It has always been a part of our program, but because of the financial difficulties in doing residential in the early days, and anybody who's been in this business understand the issues that have been related to the banks, and I think recently the solution has been provided, and so now that the solution is provided, we have everybody and his brother who would like to gain territory coming to the table.
So it sounds like, as far as the statewide thing, there's a couple competing, and you want to look at both of them. So you're not opposed to a statewide,
I think
you just want to look at both of them.
I would think that that would be a course to take.
And then you said more or less these are the same people that are on the board. More or less, who's less?
No, the board is this is our local board.
Right.
That were appointed.
And who's on there still? You said more or less.
Oh, no, they are all, the people that you see identified on that sheet there are still on the board.
And I guess my thing when I brought this, it doesn't cost us anything to do this. I was looking at this as more opportunity, and since, I guess I'm concerned that doing nothing, that we'll still be back in the same.
But we are doing something. I guess I would tell you that we are doing something,
Well,
and that we have it, and we understand what those issues are with implementing it. It's not, you appoint someone and all of a sudden they do everything. I mean, there are some things that are at issue both with our collector office and with our assessor's office that we've been working through to make sure that we're able to be responsive to the banks that are trying to implement.
How long before, and what's that position pay? The director of this, and how long before we start doing houses? Will that be a year or 2 years?
No, there is no payment to the director. They make a fee from each of the properties that they bring to the program. So it's not a municipal payment.
I mean, I guess I got confused by that. So they'll get a piece of every piece of property that they make a loan on.
Yeah, there is a small fee that is a component of the closing documents that are pressed.
So what would that fee be?
It's probably a percent and a half.
Of what's gonna be like millions of dollars, right? So that'll add up to pretty good money for that spot.
Yeah, which is why these guys are here.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I realize
Yeah,
that
that's-
everybody's trying to, but,
Yes, but it also provides a service to our citizens, and that's what we're about.
Well, and what's funny is, until, and I'm the one that introduced this, but until I introduced this, nobody's come to me to say, hey, we have this going, that we're working on this, that we have an RFP out there. It was only after this was introduced, and that, I'm hearing all this. And I don't know, is it because we introduced this that now you're moving in that direction, or?
Well, I apologize for you not being aware of the RFP that we have out there, but we were already moving in that direction prior to, well, I only learned about this board action, I guess it was last week, and the fact that it had been introduced, and so as a result of it being introduced, I guess I'm here to respond, or at least provide information for you to consider.
And the RFP went out when?
The date of. Yeah, I don't know the exact.
So this board bill was introduced more than that ago.
Well, the board, the Clean Energy Development Board, I actually was considering the issuance of the RFP back at the beginning of the calendar year. And essentially, because of a number of issues working with the collector and with the assessor, we wanted to be sure that when we put it out, that we had the appropriate actions identified in it. And so I don't know exactly when the board bill was issued, but I do know that we've been working on this for a long time. It was not, the RFP was not generated based on your action.
Because this was first read on February 12th.
Okay.
And it seems like, so you did an RFP.
Oh, so we probably were issuing our RFP around about the same time that you were generating your board bill.
Or shortly after. It was like 2 weeks ago. What was the date on the RFP?
I believe it was February 18th.
So it was after the board bill.
But as you know, it takes a while to put together an RFP. It doesn't just
Yeah,
release.
we just
No, these are just questions, because again,
All
when I
right,
went.
keep the questions to Otis at this point in time.
Okay,
And if
well, I
Patrick
really
wants
don't-
to get up, he can get up later.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything else. I was just more curious than anything. I don't have-
Okay, then we'll move on, Alderman Villa.
Do I get to go first because I'm oldest, Mr. Chairman?
Well, actually, Alderman Vaccaro was first, you're second.
Oh, thank you. See, my
And you
math
may be
skills,
older, but you're better looking.
and my math skills are a little weak.
I got you on that ageism claim, Tom. I got you back.
I guess I'll ask Alderman Vaccaro the first question. Joe, why are we in a hurry with this?
It's an opportunity that when it was first brought to me, it could have been, the chair could have been the sponsor of this, but when it was brought to me, I said, you know what? We're not doing anything for houses. There was nothing, no RFP, nothing going in any direction on houses. And it doesn't cost the city anything. And I thought, well, you know what? This is a good opportunity, and I see, in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'll learn something today, but in my mind, I would like to see multiple companies competing, because that's how you're gonna get better rates. If we do this to one, you say just one company and one company only, that's like the board bill I put through, for the 3 million, whatever, that's gonna, $1 million plus is going for like the Carnahan and city buildings. 2 million is set up for homes without income restriction, and somehow they're gonna try and somehow figure in low income houses. At some point, it's nice to be able to help all the businesses out, but at some point, and again, in my mind, and again, maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I've always felt competition was good. I would have wished we were the only car wash in town, but I think that because there were other car washes, and certainly competition keeps pricing, I think, competitive. And again, maybe I'm wrong on this, but, you know, when this was brought to me, I saw this as a great opportunity to be able to help people get heating, air conditioning systems put in their home, maybe the solar windows put, not the energy efficient windows put into their homes in an affordable way, that instead of being on a short-term 2 or 3 year 16% plus loan, this puts it, what we had heard from 5 to 8%, depending, and it puts it over the life of the loan, so it's a much smaller amount, which makes it probably easier for people that don't have the money to be able to pay. So all these things went through my mind, and when the opportunity was out there, I said, hey, I'd like to sponsor this. I felt it was reasonable to be able to put something out there that could help homeowners. And everything I saw said that all this money was going to businesses. I'm glad to see that, that homeowners can take advantage of this no matter how we do it.
Are you hearing from lots of people that see a dire need for this?
I can tell you yes.
From your ward level?
Yes. Because what's
They
happening.
must all live in your ward.
No, no.
And
So what's
shouldn't
happening,
be
people in my
sarcastic, I asked you a
ward,
question.
people in my ward, for the most part, don't qualify for healthy home repair. And healthy home repair has gotten to the point that you can only do, and this is something that I've talked with Antonio, about too, and we tried to get it on the last bond issue, which it failed, but we would like to see something in place to help people be able to afford to do the updates they need. And under healthy home, right now, 5,000 of it's forgivable, the rest stays, and if you ever sell your house, you gotta pay it off. And there's a lot of people that are afraid to have a second mortgage put on their house under that. I understand this does too. But a lot of people are afraid of that, so they don't do the healthy home. And a lot of people in my neighborhood don't qualify for healthy home because of income restrictions. It doesn't mean that they're not still living paycheck to paycheck. It just means they don't qualify. So this takes it out of an income restriction, and it helps people in my neighborhood that have called me that I've had to say, we can't help you, I'm sorry.
Are you sitting, let's say I need a new roof on my house. And my house's roof is a slate roof that probably is $100,000 roof. If I got a whole new roof, as the ad goes, it would be $100,000 because it's old and it's a slate roof. Is PACE gonna check Tom and Karen Villa's credit rating?
Well, I would assume they do, because
Well, I would hope they
the
would.
bank would have to qualify you. And I don't know if a slate roof would qualify, because I don't know that a slate roof is energy efficient, but if at your house, your air conditioner goes out, and you have a choice of putting it on a credit card, most people don't have the bill of funds, so you got this choice.
Thank God.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. But you got a choice. You can put it on your credit card. You can go to one of these companies and you can get a high interest loan. They'll do it at 18% or whatever. This just provides an opportunity for people that wouldn't necessarily qualify for, low mod, income related stuff. And it may help. It's not a program for everybody. Obviously, it's probably not a program for me, and probably not a program for you, because if my air conditioner goes out, I'll probably deal with that. But it could be a program for people, again, that are making a decent income, but living paycheck to paycheck. And I think a lot of people relate to that.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'm gonna go back and beat the same dead horse that I beat a week ago today. It seems to me that if we endorse this ordinance or pass this ordinance, then we are using the good name of the city in effect to select one program that we feel, we certainly would put them at a distinct advantage, and I don't know what we, as a city, get out of that. Otis, I don't, you're using big words. The collector's office has stated this charge is a preemptory obligation. Does that mean that when I make this loan and it goes on my real estate tax bill, Mr. Daly's office will collect that tax, and as we speak, I think he gets a small bite of that apple because he's the tax collector.
Correct.
Would this in any way, shape, or form, the additional loan that I'm making that goes on my real estate tax bill, does it become exempt from that 1.5%?
When you say exempt, say that.
Meaning, if my tax bill is $100, does Mr. Daly still get $1.50 of it for collecting it?
He does in the PACE program. He does.
Okay. So, is it fair to ask? Is it too early to inquire of Lou or?
These gentlemen are gonna make a full
They're
presentation. of all
they're
of
done to
this, so
speak, so we'll
Okay.
get them when they come back.
We'll answer a lot of those questions.
Okay. So I'll wait and ask whether or not they're interfacing with the assessor's office and our collector of revenue as it relates to how it's gonna go down. Is that fair, guys?
And my understanding is they do, my understanding is they have to. And my understanding, and again, maybe.
They
I'm
have
wrong,
to what?
They have to interact with the collector and all that, because by doing it this way, and that's the only reason the banks apparently are stepping on board now, is because it puts their loan in the first position over the bank. Because a tax lien, if for some instance you default, it puts that ahead of the banks, and I think that's why the banks are stepping up to the plate. I don't think they want it to be in the second position where if you default.
And the trade-off is we're offering a service, but we get absolutely no remuneration from PACE.
From
I
MCD. I don't know they'll have to answer that.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that's what my understanding was. And again, I'm open to listening too.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further questions at this time of either Otis or Alderman VACCARO. Thank you.
You should have been just a little bit sooner and we could have got to Alderman Carter. Alderwoman and Gracia.
I hope he went to change his shirt.
I thought you guys looked real good together there.
Like a test pattern for Channel 9.
There he is. You want to take your turn? Any
Then I gotta
questions?
You know what? I feel bad because I'm late and I missed the last meeting. But I don't want to ask a question that was already asked. But my question to the bill sponsor, and this has probably been asked, why would we want to give up local control of this and hand this over to the state? What's the benefit?
Well, so far, local control hasn't given 10 cents to any homeowner. It's only been business.
Residential, right? It's just
Residential,
businesses,
it's
right?
business. This, and had came to me, which provided an opportunity to residential. Since this came out, 3 days later, or 4 days later, then the city put out an RFP and said, well, they're gonna kind of do
I was
this
just
too.
going to ask. You're right.
After. When I put this bill in, that wasn't existent.
Can I comment?
So,
Hold on a minute, just,
Well, I mean, so I'm sorry.
here, let me straighten something out. And I really believe this. I don't think, over at SODC, they did the RFP just because this was here. And that doesn't mean anything in my decision,
No.
with it, but I think we need to stay to the material, in the bill, like that.
Well, I'm just trying to say that,
You know, the question that he asked, it kind of has been answered, but.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You know,
I'm
not-
sorry.
no, that's fine. I mean, you need to hear it too. You know, and then I'll let, when you're done, I'll let Alderwoman Gracia take over again. So,
well, no, the only reason I say that is when I introduced this bill,
yeah, but.
there was
you know,
nothing,
Alderman,
there was
that-
no other alternative out there.
Alderman, the city's PACE program, I know, has been going since we did our solar panels on our one of our buildings.
Right.
You know, and I had heard it was gonna eventually get to residential too. You
I
know, and
wanna
I
see
think,
residential.
you know, part of it is, you know, the city's program is going to residential also now, that's
Right.
the RFP. You know, but this came up in front of us and it's gonna cover, you know, residential like a now thing. So, I mean, I think everyone that's been here, especially the last meeting, you know, kind of understands that. So-
And I know what a residential is what I want to see. I know that we had 2 major projects done with the the way that it's structured now, but those were commercial.
Right.
And so, if your overall reasoning for doing this bill and creating this bill and filing it was because you wanted to see residential projects done, I think that the city has just fulfilled that. And so, unless if you can explain to me another reason why we should move forward with this.
No, I'm perfectly willing to not have a vote, but I do honestly believe
That this is the
that-
best route to go.
I would think we should be open to as many of these programs as possible because I think competition helps keep rates down. I think if you have one and one only company doing something, and Otis had said earlier that there's another company that's talking about citywide that they're also, I guess, looking at or considering. So this isn't the one and only one that would be citywide.
Hold on. Can you explain something else for me too? So you just said that it's multiple companies. What you mean, multiple?
I mean, if multiple
Banks?
or multiple groups are doing these kind of things, I think it keeps, I think competition.
So now it's only one bank that's doing it.
This will be one, and I think there's another one coming on board, possibly.
Okay.
And, since it's not costing the city anything, and it's providing opportunity, and again, this is just my thought process. It doesn't mean that it's the right thought process.
Right.
And
Okay.
Alderman
certainly
Carter,
mine.
you might be able to get more
From Lewis.
from,
Okay.
yeah, from
Okay,
when they
well,
come
I'll
up to
wait.
testify too, so.
Okay, well,
And then
thanks, that's all I
Otis-
have.
Otis, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, well, one is that under our program, there are multiple financing institutions who can participate, so it's not just one bank. But I wanted to say that this was all about competition from the outset, that we, the board, the Clean Energy Development Board, directed that we do an RFP. That was in October. And so and the reason that is this timing is because the end of the contract for our current administrator is about to end, so we wanted the RFP to be sort of coincide with that. We would bring on a new entity, or at least bring on an entity that would fulfill all of our requirements to include residential when we essentially changed administrators. Or renewed a contract.
So right now, so Joe, you just said that we have. Okay, so if this bill goes through, then you'll have multiple banks or one
No,
bank?
multiple. It would be the same, it would just be a different company going to multiple banks. So you would have the city that.
I'm confused, I'm sorry.
It'll be a different PACE program
Right.
going to multiple banks,
Multiple
not a
banks.
different company.
Okay,
And not
right.
necessarily, and I would assume that the city program would
So the
draw
city,
money from California and
Okay.
everything else.
that's all the questions I have. I'll wait for the.
Alderwoman Gracia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for being here, Otis. Can you talk a little bit more about how a second PACE program might affect the QACB finance funds out of the comptroller's office?
Well, through the President's program back about 6 years ago, there was monies allocated for energy conservation. And so the comptroller has taken charge of that and implemented a program called the QACB. Essentially, it's a bond program that will provide for homeowners. They're 75% of the program is focused toward homeowners. They've just started it, I guess, in the last 6 or 7 months. And so they have not, I'm not sure exactly where they are because we're not in the implementation of that. The comptroller's office is. But we knew that they were doing it only because we were having difficulty, for the reasons that Alderman VACCARO mentioned. Early on, banks were shying away from residential because of the lien position that they were in. And so very creative minds have come to play and found out a way to get this done. And so with that in mind, this is why we want to then come back for residential. I just know that that is an alternative that the comptroller has created. I'm not sure exactly how it works, Alderwoman, but you know, I'm sure that they would be able to explain it all to you. I just don't understand it myself.
Okay, so that would potentially then decrease again the pool of applicants if there's people that qualify for the comptroller's program and the PACE program and the STORE program.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't have any other questions right now.
Alderwoman Tyus.
So I went online to look about your RFP. And so the RFP was introduced 2/17/16. Okay, so you can go online and look that up. So, and it supposed to, it runs until 3/18/16. So right, okay.
Right.
And it's supposed to start May 1st, the 16th. So the RFP really is looking for an organization to serve as the program administrator. We're not going to be a city. It's not going to be a city-run thing, really. It's still going to be outsourced to.
It will still be outsourced, but we will review all of the candidate organizations, and then the Clean Energy Development Board would then select. Well, they select. We have a city-established RFP process, and then we have a selection committee who then recommends to the Clean Energy Development Board, who gets an opportunity to interview as well.
And so what I'm trying to do is see the difference. So the as a difference to what this is would be in the board bill, they already have somebody to do it, and it would just be that person. There would be no vetting through your organization, or through, it will just be them. Okay. Also here it says a PACE lien will be senior to all liens on the property existence at the time of the PACE lien is filed, subject to the consent of the senior mortgage holders. Is that still true? Do you still have to get consent? Or did that law change so that everybody now?
I believe it's still in place, but there are vehicles that have been created that sort of makes it acceptable and satisfactory to the banks and to the property owner.
Oh, okay, because and again, it's hard because I'm trying to compare the two, and they're not here. So you're still saying that at this time, the PACE lien, you'd have to, from what I'm understanding, so if I was the mortgage holder, I was the mortgage person, that you'd have to get my consent. It wouldn't be an automatic subrogation, okay? That I would have to sign something over saying that you have my consent.
That's the way I understand it. Now, what is happening is when we go out, people are going to come back to us with different plans and different programs and things that they say they can get done. And so they may be able to bypass that through whatever program they bring to us.
Because I thought they said that they had a vehicle where now they would be, I'm just trying to look at the two programs, okay, that they would be subjugated automatically. I thought it's what, and I will ask them when they get back here, okay, so you don't have to answer that. But I also read that
Can I
go
comment?
ahead, okay.
We also may have anyone who responds to our RFP may be able to bring that same program to us.
Okay.
Okay, and so that's
So
what
could they apply for your RFP?
That was my recommendation all along.
Okay, just asking. Okay, but as I understand it, but also that your recorded lien would still be a junior to municipal tax lien, so property tax would still have priority. And I don't know if, and when they come, I'll ask them that, okay? I wish we had a little divided thing where I could, yeah, what's different, okay? Yes, that's exactly right, okay. And so it would, if you would be open if they applied?
Most definitely.
Okay.
This is not a pre-selected kind of competition. We are looking for the best program.
Okay.
I can assure you that I speak for the Clean Energy Development Board.
Okay, all right, I don't have any further questions at this time.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Just one quick thing, you said there tends to be more capital than projects. How could that possibly be true? I mean, no one knows about the program, it's a secret?
No?
I have had people call me and wanting to know if they could get help to redo furnaces or whatever. And I told them no.
Well, I apologize, Alderwoman. It is on our website. We did have there is a promotion that was initially when it was kicked off, and whenever we have one of our programs where we have recently approved, we basically have the press talk about it at that time. I think where the issue has come in is that we've had a few people who have applied using for residential, and the banks were not responsive to that. And what I'm understanding at this point is that we can now do that, and we will definitely make a big push to ensure that.
To let everybody know
to make
that it's out there.
Make everybody aware. But we were planning to do that once we got the new administrator on board with the program, and then advertise that tremendously.
And these two, I mean, say this comes out and SLDC does theirs and they do that. They can operate in tandem, can't they, the two programs? I mean, we have a comptroller's program and say we have this program and then we have your program. They don't have to operate exclusively, like they could, it just seems to me there'd be more opportunity out there for people to apply for monies.
Well, the way that this has currently worked is that we've been working very closely with the comptroller in establishing a program. So we, staff members of mine working with the comptroller staff has been putting that together. That was the early answer that we had because we were disappointed that we were not able to respond to the residential. But the Clean Energy Development Board, the one that is by ordinance, basically sort of says that we represent that activity that is acting in the city. I would think that it would be under the auspices of the Clean Energy Development Board that we would provide these opportunities. Now maybe the Clean Energy Development Board will look at multiple opportunities, but right now the way it was set originally in the ordinance that we were going to pick an administrator and we would go and offer all of these programs ourselves.
Thank you, sir. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, the question that I always ask, what interest rate? I mean, if there's multiple financial institutes, and I know what 308, what they said last week was 5 to 8%, which was repeated, but what is this PACE program, the city PACE program, I'll call it? And all kinds of banks are different, so I'm imagining that they agree to a certain rate, or would that depend on, the applicant?
I think it probably depends on the applicant, which is why they have the range of 5 to 8. But also, being that we have not done a residential, it will be something that will be new for us. I know that we have done the commercial thus far, and I don't actually have the rate that the commercial was done at. But for us, the residential, it will definitely be a new component that will that we will adhere to, and when we will pick the company that can provide the best.
Well, but still, with the city PACE program, it's also 5 to 8%.
No, I'm saying that we haven't really done a residential yet, so I don't know what that rate it will be based on whatever the financier or the provider will bring to the table.
I would think that would be kind of important.
Oh, most definitely.
So, and then, I know you've been out there, because I said this last week, you weren't here, when we put solar panels on the bar building, the contractor that we went through actually gave me the flyer on the PACE program, which we couldn't use it with all the other Ameren incentives and stuff that was going on. But if he wouldn't have given it, I wouldn't have known about it, and I try to really stay on top of that. Just, and I said this last week, all the calls that I get of my seniors that are have unlimited income, then I always call Mr. Rata, but the ones that I can't help, and the example I used, I just got a call from a fireman that doesn't qualify, and he needs a new roof, and I told him that I know we don't, you know, well, I'm sure he needs something now, so we probably at this point in time still don't have a program to help him. You know, but when roofs leak, they do a lot of damage. If you don't get them fixed, they do more and more damage. So, I mean, and that's what kind of excited me about, you know, 308, you know, and I'm happy to see the city doing it too. And I think, you know, well, I shouldn't think, you know, we'll see how the outcome comes, you know, at the end, you know, but so I'm done mumbling on. I think what we'll do now is we'll go ahead to John Harris again, or, I'm sorry, I skipped you. That was not on purpose.
And then I just have one follow-up after her. Just
And
one
then
follow-up.
Alderman Villa did
Okay.
too, I saw
And I
him
actually
go.
have one,
I
too.
apologize again.
Okay.
Alderwoman Green.
So it seems like one of the biggest issues we're having here is really a communication issue. So I've known about the PACE program for a long time. I've been marketing it to my constituents under the auspices that this would go residential. I mean, the website even says that the plan for the PACE program has been for it to go residential. And so in my mind, it was just a matter of time before the city decided to do this. I guess my biggest concern is kind of what Alderman Carter was talking about, is this loss of local control. So if we were to have this program out of Jefferson City, what would we lose in terms of oversight and in terms of?
I'm not sure who they will report to, unless they report to you, because they aren't under our auspices.
So currently, how are we able to oversee the PACE program?
The Clean Energy Development Board selected an administrator that basically reports to the board on a monthly basis and provides feedback on what they're doing, and so we have a sense of direction. And because it was new program at the very beginning, it was more of setting a course, and when people complained, we were able to then have conversation with the administrator and try and make sure that whatever happened didn't happen again. And so, because it was a new program, it had some growing pains. In fact, the first year or so, there was just really no activity, and then all of a sudden, we became, as people learned more about it, became more requested program. And all of the, we've gone out into the contractor community, those that are involved in energy savings and conservation, to make sure they're aware, so that they can market it to people that they're working with as a way to finance some of the improvements that they have. And so early on, we had lots of interest on residential, and we kept going to the whole, trying to satisfy those requests, and were not successful. And so all of the activity where we have approved loans was in the commercial and industrial area, and so we were looking for a way to get to this point of residential. And so we think that opportunity will be with the next administrator that we select.
So how is the board currently chosen?
The board was originally, I think, in sort of the guidelines, we selected. I'm trying to remember, because I wasn't there when the board originally was formed. Not there, it wasn't my responsibility, put it that way. But I know that the mayor has appointed several of them, and then we, by design, had a couple of the utilities represented, and so each of them provided a person to the board. So both LaClede and Amron are both on the board.
Otis, hold on a minute. Patrick, you want to sit down? He knows how.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sorry. The first board was appointed by ordinance, and then the mayor appoints with Board of Alderman confirmation after that point for each subsequent appointment.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You don't want to stay in that seat?
No.
Smarter than he looks.
So then under its current
No, he's smart.
setup,
You look smart too.
at the board, we have ability to do financial oversight. So if we wanted people from the PACE program to come and testify in front of us in terms of what their financial status is,
Right.
we could do that. But if this is a state level entity, we would lose the ability to do that.
I don't know whether you lose ability, I just don't know that you have the vehicle ease of, the way that it's currently
We couldn't
constructed.
compel testimony in the same
No, I don't know, but
way.
that would be, that's a sort of a legal question, I don't know that.
We actually can.
I have a follow-up question.
Alderman Villa was next, then Alderwoman Tyus, and then
That-
Villa's got.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Otis, when all the dust settled, it looks to me, and I'm reading this, you know, the executive summary here, the Missouri Athletic Club eventually wound up using their own
So I'm gonna ask
bank
the same question.
to finance their improvements.
That was their preference, yes.
So they made that decision.
Right.
So help me, how did the PACE program then, do they benefit at all, or they just become a clearinghouse for, hey, you guys need new windows and a roof? I'm not,
Well, part of the program is there's an assessment that's done very early on to basically determine what, and each of the potential users or whatever can either do that privately before they contact our program, or the program itself will assist them in getting it done. And then they will assist in helping getting the financing and that kind of thing. And just in this case, though, they did work through all of the issues related to the Missouri Athletic Club. At the end of the day, they chose not to use the finance vehicle that
is that the PACE St. Louis?
had in place. They chose because they had larger, they had a combination of things they were getting done. So it was better for them to use their own bank financing to be able to get it done. And that's essentially what happened.
Does Set the Pace St. Louis, that board, that entity, that, I don't know what they are.
It's the Clean Energy Development Board.
But they don't have their own separate pool of money to lend.
There's no money available. This is money that is made available through the vehicle that is PACE.
So getting back to the reason we're here today, Board Bill 308, these gentlemen, these gentlemen have money to lend. Is that correct?
Yes, but they have a program where they have a vehicle, I believe, where they can make loans currently for residential. What we're saying is that we will, our administrator, whomever we select, will have that same ability when we select that person.
So your RFP is gonna include, I have to have guys and gals with a pot of money.
The current guy he came with a bank, but he then realized that he could use multiple banks. There are certain projects where banks have appetite for doing, and some other banks may not. And so, we've used the local banking pool, as well as a PACE loan expert program that have come to the table as well. And so when I said there's a variety of banks that are financing, initially when the administrator came to the table, they came with only PNC, and they then began to use other banks to close on their loans.
As we speak, if I go and try to utilize your existing program tomorrow morning, is our city assessor and our collector of revenue in that loop?
They're in the loop. They're in the loop in the sense that they have processed a number of our projects already.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Thank you. So, I guess now I'm feeling that I maybe missed something. Why do we need oversight? So, from what I was hearing with what they were doing, or why, so if somebody gets a loan and the guy who's doing furnace or air conditioning, whatever, comes there and they automatically qualify instantly, is what I heard, I think. Right, okay, they'll be able to run your little credit and tell you within a few seconds if you qualify or not. So that appears to me to be like maybe a second mortgage or something like that. So why would the city need oversight over that?
It's not oversight over that loan. We don't get into the loan approval or any
Okay.
of that. Okay.
What is the oversight over?
The oversight is on the activities of the board, just to make sure that things are going in the direction that we think is the correct. I said we being the board believes is the right direction to head. And in this case, there was the need to make sure that the administrator was providing the residential, and so that was one of the aspects of it, you know.
But they're already, and again, I'm trying to compare the two in my head. They already came here and said, we're ready to do residential. So, I guess if you put them under contract, if they don't do it, then what you will kick them out of the program, and they can still go out and do it anyway if we get this passed, right? Okay, so I'm missing something here, okay? Why we need the oversight over what they're doing, because if I don't like what they're doing, I won't accept whatever they're offering, okay? If I don't think it's a good idea, I'm just missing something here. I don't get, and I am not on any side. I am trying to understand this. Okay.
Well, there are obviously there are things that within the municipal processes that we have sort of ironed out or worked out, particularly both with the collector and with the assessor, and that was done through the program administration and through the board. So I think that what we lose is
That's where I was going next.
exactly what people are doing out there, and we should just sort of get a report back to be sure that they are in fact treating the citizens correctly.
Couldn't we just put in this board bill that they have to report back to you what's going on, or make a report to the board of aldermen and some other people, what's going on?
Well, I guess, and I'm not speaking for the board itself because I'm just the executive and that represent them. But I do think that what we're asking is that if we just had time to basically have this discussion amongst all of these folks and figure out what people are doing, because we only learned about their desire to participate here just last week ourselves.
So, what I always find that when I don't understand, there's some fees someplace that I'm not understanding. So I keep hearing you say about the assessor and the collector.
Mm-hmm.
So in the way, if we keep it through the city control, then will we get some money that we would not get if we let them do it?
No, I think that they're gonna have to pay the same fees, because unless they have a different way of getting it done. For us, if it's added to the taxes that the citizen will pay,
Mhm.
that it has to be done through a vehicle within the municipal government that will allow that to occur.
The special assessment.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
if it's going to be collected through the collector, then
You'll still get, the collector will still get their fee.
I would assume.
Right. Okay. And the assessor, how are they in part of your?
Well, they're just in the process in the sense that they are the ones that assess and.
The property value?
They set the property value.
Okay, and so why then, if we don't like what they're doing, or we're unsure what they're doing, so what do we think about with the comptroller? Why is the comptroller bringing even a third leg to this? And have you sat down with the comptroller and
We
talked
are,
with her?
because the comptroller came to the table because we were not early on, back in 2012, 2013, we weren't able to get to the residential. And
Okay.
so it was her effort to try and get us some vehicle to provide for residential.
So have you seen her program at all?
I'm aware of it, but maybe, Rob, do you have any sense of it? No, I am not. I just know that she's doing it.
And so, and I'm sort of just asking, you can't speak for the comptroller, nobody's in here, right? So, but, so her program would have to be set up much like this, I take it, okay? Right. And then who would her people report to, or who would have oversight over that program? Just your best guesstimate.
They report directly to the comptroller,
Okay.
So, and the whole program is managed by the comptroller's office, so I don't know.
And it would still be through banks, and it'd still be a special assessment, because and I didn't go pull the state statute, which I should have. So I'm guessing.
It is not. It is not a mirror of the PACE program. It
Okay.
is essentially having funds available to be able to provide to people on request if they meet certain guidelines.
And
Wait, Donald,
I can help answer it.
okay,
probably.
wait, I know, but we have to get permission from the chair.
No, he's next. So-
Oh, no, he
Yeah.
said he wanted to
I
answer
could, I
the
could
question
try,
I
I
was
might be able
asking.
to answer the
Well, he
comptroller's
can answer
program.
it, he's next anyway. so.
Okay.
I'm gonna be very quick about it. But the comptroller's program was a bond issue that we passed through the Board of Aldermen about 3 or 4 weeks ago
Mhm.
that provided about 3 million.
3.2 million.
Yeah, and 100,000 of that was going to the Carnahan building for the coolers, and another part of it can be used for city buildings. We still have to pay it back, but it's low interest or no interest loans. It's no interest if I'm right. And 2 million of it will go out. Also, anybody can apply for it. It's already passed and through. It has income restrictions on it, but somehow or another, she said that she's gonna try to somehow target low income, which I haven't figured that, but that's up to her to do. But that's a bond issue that was passed, and she has to issue the bonds, and that's a pool of money that will be there for energy efficient loans, and a portion of it used for city buildings.
Okay, so hers will come through the bond issue.
Right.
And so it will not be done
Right,
like
and
these.
it's
Okay.
held to
No.
$3.2 million.
Okay.
And 2 million going to,
I think it's actually 3/4 to, as you're describing,
Right.
and 1/4 to the city efforts.
right, and so they're gonna use it, they're gonna put 100,000 along with the 80,000 we approved last year in the budget to redo, the cooler at the Carnahan building is going bad.
And it will all be energy efficient.
And that's what it has to be.
But you said hers will be targeted for, low to moderate income, right?
No, it's really not.
Okay.
It does have income restrictions, but she said that she's going to try to target 1 million or so of that to low income. I'm not sure how she's gonna do that.
Okay.
Because it had income
I'll call her.
restrictions, but it was a no interest loan, and we passed that, I guess it was out 4 weeks ago.
And it's no interest loan, okay, and so it's no interest, so they wouldn't have an interest in the comptroller's program.
Yeah, it should be no interest. I believe it's no interest.
Okay, that's all my questions, thank you.
And I'm fine. I think I
done?
wanna get the next group up, so.
How do we wanna do this? John, you wanna, you're up first, huh, or both of
Yeah, I
them?
think we're sort of a tandem thing here in response to our last
That was my question. You wanna go by yourself, or we do both?
No, I need help.
Okay. I'm sure you do.
I really would like to have a.
You wanna go ahead and introduce yourself again, and then we'll start around
Thank you.
run the list.
Yes, sir, thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm John Harris, Director of Finance for the Missouri Clean Energy District. Here today with Victor Valaplana, who is Financial Relations Vice President for Renovate America, which is the Missouri Clean Energy District's partner in offering the PACE program. Well, this has been a lively discussion. This is kind of exciting, really, because while we're a little surprised at, some of the what I would say misconceptions about, what this all means, I'm glad that Mr. Williams is here so that we can sort of interact too. And the reason for that is there is really, I think, respectfully, I think I would, disagree sort of fundamentally with what's been depicted here. And so I'm going to try and reset the table a little bit, and maybe address some of these concerns. There seems to be some controversy here that really I'm a little surprised about because to our mind, there really shouldn't be. This is just more of a good thing. You got time on the camera?
You need it now?
Yes.
Hold on, we'll take a short break.
Good place to stop.
So the third program. I wanna get on the comptroller's list, no interest.
No one's,
Yeah.
yes. I caught that.
But it
I don't
was-
want either
it's
one of
a-
these.
kind of a small group.
But still,
What kind of bonds are this?
That's, Joe did it for the comptroller.
Yeah, but this is the comptrollers,
It
the county's
depends
just.
on the type of, not general obligation bonds that the
No.
people
No,
vote on.
No,
It's just
This
her
was a-
bonding
this-
capacity.
This was.
They were provided by
right.
ARA. You
Right.
recall, the president had an ARA program in his first administration. And these are the bonds that were issued during the course of the ARA. They were requested by the city. And this is the way that the comptroller has chosen to implement that.
Hold on, we're back on now.
Thank
John?
And the county got a.
Hold on, John.
I got through my opening remark. I think to reset the stage here, and I think I'll just frame this based on what the discussion was it last week? And we didn't really intend to, step on any process that was taking place that we were not familiar with. And it's not that we weren't familiar with this RFP that's being discussed here, but to us it was kind of a non-issue. We didn't think there was an overlap here because clean energy development boards, can operate anywhere, and it's kind of the model of PACE that you have a variety of offerings, and it's just a benefit to the property owners at the end of the day. So now we realize that process was going on, and so I'm glad we're aware of that, so that we can, address some of these issues. Certainly, one of the first things. Well, I'll go on to say that we'll talk about how that process works and how we might interact there, and then we want to talk about, as we promised, specific operational capacity of how this thing actually works. Last week we were talking about, was it Mrs. Jones, and exactly what the experience is, and as a means of understanding what this offering is and where it comes from. So we'll do that, and but I think that maybe the first thing that I need to do is sort of dispel some of these misconceptions, if you'll allow me just a bit to do that. And if I don't catch everything, that's of concern here, in the minds, I hope somebody will bring them up again, and offer to, an interaction with Mr. Williams too, if I don't catch everything. But, so this first of all, the Missouri Clean Energy District, while indeed also a Clean Energy Development Board, had a fundamental difference of approach early on. This was passed in the legislature in 2010, and boards started to be developed in 2011. Any municipality, by the authority of the Act, may create a clean energy development board. I think, as we mentioned last week, Mocane can start a board. Any municipality can start their own board. But the Missouri Clean Energy District decided that the strategy would be to allow large communities, small communities, any community within Missouri to join with the district, so that they could avoid having to create their own board with the legal cost or cost associated with it, and with the burden of sort of carrot feeding of that thing. And large communities with means certainly could create their own board if they saw a benefit in it, and certainly that's what happened in St. Louis. But that does not at all restrict the community from joining with other boards if it's to their advantage, and that's what's happening. Now, I want to stress this. The Missouri Clean Energy District is not a creature of the state. It is not a creature of the state. It is not an agency of the state. It was created because it had to be created through an ordinance of Jefferson City, Missouri. Once created, it's an independent entity. It's a political subdivision. And the strength of the Missouri Clean Energy District is that it is achieving scale through its membership of these communities that I'm talking about around the state. So that there is a fundamental difference here in the operation of a local clean energy development board versus a clean energy development board that encourages membership. So if there are any questions about that, please ask that again, because that's really an important concept. There is no, this is not control from Jefferson City or something. This is a group of, basically it's a group of communities that have joined together, you know, in sort of an intergovernmental way to provide for themselves and others a means to run a program for lending for energy projects that has the hope of attaining scale. And when I say scale, scale means different things to different people, but when in finance, when you talk about scale, it means a sufficient weight of transactions, financial transactions, to gain the attention of the capital markets. And that's an extremely important point, because when you have a bank or an individual investor, you know, that has an interest in lending, you know, to programs, that's fine, that's good. But at the end of the day, when you have access to the capital markets writ large, capital markets, that means suddenly we have, and this is what PACE is about, really, you have access to not millions of dollars, you know, for your property owners, you have access to trillions, literally, of dollars. Okay, and so that's a fundamental distinction of how we have structured the Missouri Clean Energy District. Another issue directly related to scale, this concept of scale, is that to have a marked impact on not only the housing community and the building community, the building stock, but the trades, the contractors, the vendors, the community, the HVAC, the Mrs. Jones's, Dave Lennox, and the solar guys, to have the ability to have a marked difference, make a difference in the housing market, the building market. The contractors must be engaged. They must see a benefit to themselves. And scale applies to that concept in terms of being able to have a geography that makes sense to them. So our attempts to gain scale in terms of membership through having communities all across the state join means directly to the contractors that this makes sense to them. This is a market program now. They can go to a community and offer their services and their products to Mrs. Jones, and it makes sense to her. But when he goes to the next town or the next county and he can't offer it simply because we don't have this contiguous geography, well, it doesn't make sense, and all of a sudden it doesn't work. So you can't have any hope of scale in any of these areas without having a group of communities joined together in a contiguous area. All right, so I try and dispel this concept. We don't sense any, so that's another reason I'm surprised by the controversy here that I'm sensing. We don't have any bones. I mean, we encourage everybody that where it makes sense to have their own board. and and offering. We encourage that. In fact, what's going to happen here is that when we approach this sense of scale, did I say something wrong?
No.
Oh.
The computer did.
I didn't get the
they
joke.
have a mind of their own, so.
What happens is when we approach that, is that it's going to lift everybody's boat, really. So if there are other, like the Set the Pace, or Show Me Pace, or these other PACE programs, what's going to happen is it's going to raise the thing for everybody, and everybody's going to have more opportunity and and ability for our property owners really to understand what this is, and they will have more options, honestly, and they could choose. So that's all for the good. In terms, I might mention, in terms of transparency or reporting or this sort of thing, I think we mentioned last time, and Victor may mention this in his remarks too, but our program is entirely transparent. We want it to be, and we want to answer any question, anything. But our system reports daily, minute by minute, exactly what we're doing. Every community has a portal into the system to know exactly how many projects are going through, how many dollars, how much carbon set. The whole reporting ball of wax is at your fingertips every day, every minute, at any time. And so, that's of course required by statute, sort of on an annual basis. But we understand that requirement, and we appreciate the ability to be able to have everybody know kind of what's going on at any time. So to address that point, but so with that said, I think it would be really helpful here to have Victor, and then we can address other issues afterwards or answer any questions. But I think it would be very helpful for us to have Victor go through exactly what this program does. And again, the Missouri Clean Energy District essentially is an authority. It's a group of members of communities all over the state. It's totally voluntary. There's no pressure. There's nothing. No arm twisting from Jefferson City, if we call it that. This is a program that is entirely a sort of the true nature of a private-public partnership, and so we're very happy to bring this information to you. And so I think I'll turn this over to Victor, and let's just walk through the program. And I think this will really clarify a lot of questions. So thank you, Victor.
Thank you, John. As John mentioned, I'm Victor Villaplana, the Vice President of Financial Relations for Renovate America, and I have some slides I'll walk through. And HERO, just so we're all on the same page, what you see on the cover sheet there, that's our branded PACE financing program, stands for Home Energy Renovation Opportunities. In the interest of time, it seems like there's a pretty good foundation for what PACE is and how it works. Maybe we just skip to slide 5 and really dive into Renovate America's offering and how we run our business. We really are the leading provider of residential PACE financing in the country. Over 90% of all residential PACE financings that have been done through Renovate America, and I think it's for a variety of reasons. We've spent a fair amount of money and a lot of time on a very cutting-edge technological platform that makes this a seamless proposition for property owners, for contractors, as John mentioned, for our municipal partners that we can provide data. So we spent a lot of time and money on the back end to build this platform so that the program works as seamlessly as possible. We have leading consumer protections, and I can talk about that, but we really feel like having the most strident consumer protections, whether that's in terms of financing amounts, whether that's in terms of privacy, both from a data perspective and personal information perspective, the kinds of disclosures and documentations and the way those disclosures and documentations are presented to homeowners so that it's clear and understandable. We've spent a lot of time making sure that we have what we think are really the industry-leading consumer protections. We have an extensive database of products. Over 1 million different products are financeable through PACE. And we'll tailor that, as I'll talk about a little later, for Missouri, for example, and California, because we have our drought issues. You can finance drought-tolerant plants, artificial turf. That probably doesn't translate here, but we may have some other things that may be Missouri-specific, so we're working through that. And as John alluded to, we have an extensive data tracking, so when we think about reporting and oversight, as John mentioned, whoever wants to have it, whether it's the Economic Development Council or Alder people or whatever the case may be, there's an app that you can get on your phone or a web-based portal where you can see real-time how many projects have been approved, how many projects have been funded, how many pounds of carbon dioxide have been saved by doing these projects, how many gallons of water in the case of California. So we really want to be as transparent as possible and provide as much detail as necessary as our government partners would like to see. And I think that the proof is in the pudding. Those last two bullets on slide 5 show, in terms of the kind of consumer feedback, we have 95% of our customers would recommend using Hero to a friend, 93% would recommend a contractor. We take great pride in that, in consumer satisfaction and making sure we're doing right by our customers. If we flip to slide 6, I touched on a few of these things, but I'll just briefly go through sort of the benefits that we provide versus other financing options. So as I mentioned, we have this extensive database of products, so we're pulling data from lots of different sources to ensure that the products that consumers are installing in their homes will actually be financeable. The worst scenario is a contractor installs something, it turns out it's not financeable. So we do a lot of back-end work to make sure that doesn't happen. Extensive contractor requirements as well. And that involves making sure compliance, the contractors are meeting compliance standards, they're going through ongoing training on an annual basis, making sure that new employees who are coming into the firm that are doing sales calls are getting trained appropriately so they're out there and able to sell the product in the right way. As I mentioned, we have fair pricing requirements so we can assure that a customer is not getting gouged, frankly, by an unseemly contractor, so that there's a certain threshold on all the different products that you can't charge more than. Obviously making sure that all the proper permits are being pulled and pulled correctly. One that I think is very important, we don't fund the contractors until the project is done and until the homeowner has signed off to their satisfaction that it's been done. And so obviously that's a big stick if you're a contractor to making sure you're going to get paid, so you need to get it done right. And frankly, I'll touch on this in a second, but we have a large team of almost extensively ex-law enforcement folks who work in our compliance department and make sure that any dispute resolution that comes up, a homeowner calls in and is unsatisfied with what happened. We have a team that will go out there, work with a contractor, work in the homeowner to make sure that things are resolved in a satisfactory manner. And the last point, something we've really focused on as well, and that's protection for seniors. So we make sure that customers who are applying for PACE financing who are over the age of 65, we have a special extra check for those customers, make sure they understand what they're signing up for, making sure that they understand the terms of the agreement, because we want to make sure, again, that we're very transparent and folks understand what they're getting themselves into. If we flip to 7, talking about the underwriting, I think this is a very important slide. So there was a discussion earlier about what sort of the standards and credit scores. So really what's on the left-hand box is what we use from underwriting requirements. So I think the key things to hone in on is a property owner, and this is all residential, of course, has to have at least 10% equity in their house. So they can't have a loan to value in excess of 90%. They can't have had, they need to be current on the property taxes, current on their mortgage, and no more than one late payment over 3 years on their property taxes, and only 1 30-day late on their mortgage over the last 12 months. Can't have had a bankruptcy over the last 7 years, and can't have any involuntary liens. So while we pull credit and we have the credit score, we don't use the credit score as a determining factor in the underwriting process. It's these these standards that we use. In Missouri, we're going to allow for 20% property value. So to the extent that you have 80% or 20% equity in your home, you can borrow up to that 20% to do a PACE project. You cannot exceed 100% of loan to value when you combine your mortgage and your second mortgage, for that matter, if you have one, and your PACE financing. So we're always trying to make sure we're not allowing homeowners to get over their skis in that regard. And on interest rates, in terms of loan, we do fixed rate, 5, 10, 15, or 20-year term loans. The interest rate is not based on the property owner itself. The interest rate is based on the term of the loan. So when we talk about that roughly 5 to 8% range, the 5% number would be on the 5-year term loan, the 8% number would be on the 20-year term loan, and the interest rates would gradually increase for the 10 and the 15-year terms. So it's a fully amortizing loan, so every payment includes a portion of principal and interest, so it's a declining balance. And again, it's a fixed rate. There's no adjustable rate mortgage or adjustable rate loan, rather. It's a fixed rate, whatever the number is for that term of the loan. And so when you look at these underwriting criteria, it sort of results in that right-hand box, which shows very few foreclosures, which you don't have there, hardly any. I think it's less than 10 of the 60,000 deals we've done. No bond delinquencies, so in terms of making sure we're paying, making the payments for the bonds, we've got enough cash flow to do that because folks are making their payments. An average loan to value in the homes of about 70%, and importantly, an average FICO score for our property owners of about 710. So these are good credit-worthy customers who are using this financing. And again, as I mentioned earlier, really an overwhelming majority of folks who are very positive about the experience they've had using PACE and would highly recommend it to friends and family. Flipping to 8, just briefly, we're really trying to build a new marketplace at Renovate America, and that really means that all the different players involved in this are succeeding, not just us. So whether it's homeowners getting access to a new financing option at lower costs, contractors, as John alluded to, really helping contractors have a new tool in their toolbox to be able to sell to customers, and to offer an opportunity for folks. It's interesting, one of the things we found is that energy efficiency and energy efficient home renovations have been around for a long time, but they're just not used. The uptake is only about 1 in 4. Every time somebody does something, only about 25% of the time do people use energy efficient options. And frankly, it's because there's just not awareness and there's not that financing opportunity. And so that's what we're really trying to break down the barrier. Obviously, helping our government partners, as I mentioned, in terms of both data, but also just public policy, whether it's lowering greenhouse gas emissions, but also, frankly, economic growth. We'll get to a slide later. It shows some of the economic development we've been able to drive in California, but this is an opportunity to create jobs and to create economic, an economic boon, frankly, for the region by allowing for these home renovations that would not otherwise take place. And then we do have the investors, as John alluded to, from the capital markets perspective. Just the way our program works is we then John's entity will issue bonds, Renovate America will purchase those bonds, and we'll then take those bonds and sell them to the capital markets. And these are A-rated securities. We've got rating agencies who look at these, and these are being sold to a broad swath of accredited institutional investors who are very savvy and look at this stuff all the time. Slide 9, just talking briefly about our contractors. This is our lifeblood in terms of working with contractors and providing them the tools to be able to successfully sell this program to homeowners. So we've created a whole number of different portals to help them with that. Just an easy one to explain is we actually have a web-based portal where contractors can go and type in my property address before they come to my house. They can see, one, if I'm in bounds, if I'm even living in a community that allows for PACE. Assuming I check that box, then they are able to pull and see a fairly good estimate, although not a precise estimate, of how much I might be able to finance, so that if I'm interested in solar but I've only got $5,000 worth of available credit, they know trying to pitch me solar via PACE isn't going to be a viable option, because we're probably talking about a $20,000 or $30,000 solar installation. So it gives that contractor the opportunity to really tailor their sales message, which is effective as they try to close the deal. I mentioned we give them ongoing training so they really understand the program and understand what we're trying to sell. We also provide lead generation for our most important partners, and this is not necessarily our biggest partners, but it's really the ones with the best compliance, with the highest customer satisfaction ratings. We go out and look at social media sites and Yelp and Angie's List and things, and make sure we're getting the right contractors who are doing the best work, and we give them the lead generation. We want to help create a sort of a virtuous circle for those folks that continue to do good work. Flipping to slide 10, we can see what we've been able to accomplish in California, where we're the market we're currently operating in. We cover about 83% of the state. We've done over 62,000 different projects and financed almost $1.3 billion in upgrades over the last 4 years. It's created almost 11,000 jobs, and you can see some of the other stats in terms of economic impact and abated CO2 emissions. So it's been a very successful program in California, and we're really excited to bring this to Missouri and to the rest of the country. Slide 11, I mentioned briefly the eligible products. There's a website that you can go to that will lay out all the different products down to a SKU-based level, so you really know exactly what's eligible and what's not, so there's no surprises when that financing happens. And as I mentioned, we're in the process of tailoring this currently for Missouri to make sure that we're meeting all the Missouri standards and including products, rather, that will be eligible here in state. Slide 12, just a brief sort of trajectory of where we've been and where we've come from. We started the company in 2009, and as I mentioned today, we're over $1 billion in financing. And really, I think what's important here is we operate at the permission of local government, and so I think this trajectory really shows the trust that local governments in California have put in us because we've been able to achieve such large numbers in such a short period of time. If we flip to slide 12, I think this may be kind of the crux of it, and I'll spend a few minutes here in terms of this homeowner experience and how this works. There's really, if we go back to Mrs. Jones, there's two ways for Mrs. Jones to find us. One is her contractor could come to her and talk to her about she wants a new roof or she wants some new windows, and he could sell her Hero and say,
Page 13.
excuse me, I apologize, page 13, I can't read the small font, thank you. Her contractor could sell her on Hero because he's gone through the training and he's aware of the program. She could also find us directly. We do marketing. We plan to do marketing here, whether it's billboard, radio, direct mail campaigns. So customers can find us directly, go to our website, and say, yes, I want to do Hero. In that case, we could either put them in touch with a contractor, one of those preferred partners that we talked about with lead generation earlier, or they could then bring their own contractor to the table and say, I want to do this project with you, and I want to use Hero to do it. They would, of course, have to be a Hero licensed contractor to allow for that to happen. Once the contractor and the homeowner come together, they then decide what the product is and what the project is. So they want to do new windows, for example. They want to do a new roof. It does have to be an energy efficient roof. They make sure they fall under all the underwriting requirements, make sure they have enough borrowing capacity to pay for that project. And then as someone alluded to earlier, really in most cases, it's sitting at the kitchen table and it's an almost immediate approval process. It's a minute or two. There's a few instances, for example, if the home is in a trust, for example, that takes slightly longer. That's 15 minutes because we've got to get some additional documentation. But typically the lion's share of the approvals will come back in a couple of minutes. And to the extent that you meet those underwriting requirements we talked about earlier, typically people are approved, and we'll provide the contractor a dollar amount that said this homeowner is eligible to borrow up to this dollar amount, whatever that might be. Once that's done, there'll be a series of documents generated that are signed by the homeowner. They can be signed right from the contractor's tablet, or the homeowner could elect to do it on their own time. As you can imagine, the contractors like to try to get the deal done at the kitchen table, so we try to make it fairly seamless for them. There's a 3-day right to cancel, so even if a homeowner does sign and elect to go forward, they do have the opportunity, there's a cooling off period, they have the opportunity to go back and decide that they want to change their mind and opt out. And as part of these financing documents, there's a very clear document showing what's going to be the annual payment, and what the interest rate is, what the term of the loan, what the dollars out the door will be on an annual payment. We often also tell people that on a monthly basis. So even though we want people to think, you're paying your property taxes once a year or twice a year in California, but you ought to save for this, you ought to be prepared so you're not surprised when the bill comes due. And then, as I mentioned earlier, assuming you get past this step, then the contractor will begin the work. If you're talking about an air conditioner, it could take a day or two, not very long. If you're talking about a solar project, it could take months to get done. So the project takes as long as the project takes. Then once the project is completed, a completion certificate will need to be signed by both the contractor and the property owner to say, yes, the work has been done. I got installed what I wanted to be installed. It was installed well. They did a good job. They cleaned up their mess. They didn't leave holes in the wall. And once that homeowner signs a completion certificate, we'll typically pay the contractor almost always within 24 hours, and usually same day. We'll be able to pay them rather quickly. And so it keeps a healthy contractor base, and it keeps the homeowners feeling that they've got protection, that the contractor is going to be there to fix whatever problems need to be fixed because they're not getting paid otherwise. On slide 14, we also have a group of folks which we call the Hero Property Advisors, and that's a dedicated team of individuals that work with the real estate community, and we talked a little bit about lien position. And so we really want to be with homeowners from the beginning of the process, when they decide they want to make this remodel or this renovation, all the way through the point at which they leave their home because they've decided to sell or move or whatever the case may be. And so this group works with the real estate community, works with homeowners. We're able to pull, when a property is listed, we're able to pull the MLS listing and reach out to homeowners who have Hero financed the project and remind them, hey, you did this, and let's talk about what the options are in terms of now that you're selling your home. And frankly, this becomes really part of the negotiation in the home sale. There are certain things you can imagine, like solar, for example, which really lower the operating cost of the home, and there's, I think, a lot of value to a future homeowner in that. There are others where windows or doors, I think when we all buy a house, we expect there to be windows or doors, so we may not necessarily feel like There's added value, so it becomes part of the negotiation whether the new homeowner will take that lien with them, or whether they'll, you know, work out something in the property, in the sale price to determine how that lien gets managed. And it really just becomes part of that. But we have this team of people which are largely all ex-real estate agents or real estate professionals who work with homeowners to make that, again, a very seamless process through the sale and refi process. And then the last few slides, just very briefly, are just pictures of some of the different marketing materials. So the first one is a direct mail campaign. This is sort of a mock-up for something we've done in California to try to make it look a little like Missouri. Just tells people about the program, tells them what they might be eligible to finance, and provides our phone number, website, gives them an opportunity to learn more about the project. Some more marketing collateral, on 16. On 17, we have a welcome kit, so anytime there is a financing done, we'll send this red box welcome kit out to homeowners. It provides all sorts of different information to make sure that they're fully apprised of what's going on. And you can imagine, even after a project has been completed, you know, we're still getting calls back. For example, this year we're instituting a policy of sending out a letter to homeowners in California who are first time. This will be their first property tax bill that has the HERO assessment on it. So we're going to send them a bill. Property taxes are due in November, next November, or this November now in California. So we'll send them a bill in May reminding them, hey, you took out this financing. It's going to be X number of dollars on your property tax bill. You might want to think about saving on a monthly basis so that you're prepared to pay for that. So we want to make this, again, very consumer friendly. And similarly, we have a contractor marketing kit, or contractor toolkit, which provides information for contractors. And I think, as John alluded to, there's a contractor portal, and we try to do everything very web-based, but there's a lot of information out there for contractors to be able to sell this and learn about it, online training regimens and whatnot, to try to make this as easy as possible for them to sell and as easy as possible for customers to understand. So with that, I think I'm finished with prepared remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Alderman VACCARO.
No questions.
Alderman Villa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Victor, where's your home?
San Diego, California.
I'm going right with you.
It's a little cold out there for me today, I gotta say.
It's
yeah.
very
It must be
very
65.
unusual for us.
Yeah.
I heard it was 70 yesterday. We should have done this yesterday.
It was dropping like a rock, I think, when we came in.
It was
at
perfect yesterday.
12:30. Anyway, welcome to St. Louis.
Thank you.
John kind of expressed, you know, why there would be some misconception here. I'm speaking only for me as a representative of the one ward of the 28. And we try to come down here and do what is best for the people we represent. And in my particular instance, you know, John, we get called on to be not experts, but whether in a democracy, we vote on a lot of realms we don't know a darn thing about. You know, the board bill 308 really brings me to one that, quite frankly, had little or no exposure to, other than, you know, I think I understand some bank loans a little. Having said that, this is a very well done presentation, young man. You do a good job, and you've done it before. I can tell the way you've read all these things off, which is commendable. But don't we, as a city of St. Louis, by the passage of Board Bill 308, I'm back on this, we in effect give Renovate America some instant credibility, because we as a city are authorizing, pursuant to an ordinance, we are the imprimatur of who we think will do the best job of giving you a loan. Now that's a big deal for me, and the only reason that I'm, you know, where I'm going with this is no one else really has had the opportunity to bid against you, have they?
Well, Mr. Williams has a program that is going to operate in this space, he says. There are others who can bring a similar type of offering to communities. we're doing nothing other than what they, or more than they could do. Well, we're probably doing more, but other than they could do. I would maybe try and answer that question by framing it this way. The district currently has something north of 50 members, municipal members, counties and cities. And it represents...
In Missouri?
In Missouri. It's approaching... Yeah, we're totally a Missouri enterprise here.
Okay.
Authority. And so, Missouri. And it's approaching a third of the population of the state. And this is a happy thing for us because of this desire to get to scale to benefit everybody.
Your containment area is taking in a third of the state's population, is that what you're
Yes, sir.
saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They're not your customers,
represented membership to
Good
the
enough.
district
Thank
now. And so I think, I don't quite know how to address your question other than through that response, because the city of, we just hope that the city of St. Louis would take advantage of this, and any machine that's set up, and that you're basically saying, why should we give you the honor of having St. Louis as a member? And it would be an honor, and it would help everyone get to this point of scale. But the biggest benefit of this scale to date has been our ability to partner with a firm like Renovate America, which has invested tens and tens of millions of dollars in developing this system that you just looked at, so that we can have a market program here that is directly connected to basically unlimited money.
And what's the maximum amount of money I can borrow?
So it's up to 20% of the equity in your home. So it's all really a function of your home. So you alluded to a $100,000 roof. So you'd need to have, however much your house is worth, you'd need to have $100,000 worth of equity, and that had to be 20% of your home.
Okay, and I guess, again, the lending money for any kind of home renovation is highly competitive, is it not?
It is. There's a number of different, obviously there's PACE, and then there's a whole host of other opportunities for folks, from home equity loans to just financial institutions, banks. I think Mr. VACCARO mentioned some of these high interest rate, 18% loans as well. So there's a broad market base. I think what's different about this is, one, again, this is only for energy efficiency home upgrades. So this is not just a home remodel because I want a new bathroom, because I want marble instead of tile. This is really home energy efficient upgrade. So your roof has to be energy efficient. The new air conditioner ostensibly would be. Windows and doors have to be energy efficient. And I think the other component of this is it does then tie back to the tax bill and really runs with the property, not with the individual necessarily.
Would you consider that a subtle advantage or a distinct advantage when it's hooked up with the tax bill?
I think there's an advantage. I don't know how I would measure that advantage, but I think there's an advantage undoubtedly.
Okay. Yeah, and again, you're delightful people, and your presentation is impressive. I would like to hear if my brother sells, he's a struggling door-to-door light bulb salesman.
Yeah,
right. But my point is, if he can go into the city of Chicago and sell General Electric light bulbs, and no one else can compete against Villa Lighting for that contract, we're gonna be real flush at the end of the year.
We're not saying that, though.
Yeah.
We are saying this is an offering that would not, you can have any number of offerings in the community. We're not opposed to that at all. We're just saying, allow this to be one of the offerings. Whatever's set.
Let me interrupt you, but you're here first, and you want us to be the imprimatur of your company having the distinct advantage of going to the assessor and our collector of revenue and, in effect, collecting your money.
May I address that?
Sure.
We're not here first. you have set the pace, of course, which is operating now, and Mr. Williams is here and has discussed that program, and he's saying that it's intended to grow as well, and that's fine, and they have access to capital, he's saying, and that's great. What we're saying is that we're not the first, and that we are another offering that does not conflict with any offering that exists now, and will not conflict with those that may come in the future to offer a similar mechanism or financing device. To address your issue about imposing upon the assessor and collector of the county, the district does not do that. The district reports in a similar way to as provided by statute to the collector and the assessor, but the district arranges for this operation, this back office operation of the billing and collecting itself. So this burden is not one that is loaded on to the local assessor and collector. And the reason for that for us is for the same notion of scale that I was talking about. If you're dealing, this is a sophisticated county and city itself, but not every municipality has the capacity to be able to manage this flow of transactions. So we knew that early on and just took on that responsibility ourselves. So there is no burden there.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you permit me 2 more quick questions. John, if I'm reading this properly, we would be going under you keep referring to it as Mr. Williams' program, so I'm going to refer to it as Mr. Williams' program. Currently, we have a 5-member board appointed by the mayor, and in your scenario, we would have 1 member, 1 of 5. Is that correct?
This stems from the discussion we had last week.
That's correct.
Okay.
We would elect 1 member that would go to Jefferson
Correct.
City and
That's
sit
correct.
on that board.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. I don't know if that
But
doesn't
when
seem
you have
like
a
a very
statewide
good
program,
trade.
I mean, we're open to suggestions, but when
Oh, no, I'm just
That's
trying
the way it is.
I'm trying to think petty and local,
Good.
because that's what I do. And then, how did you're created under chapter 67, is that right?
I'm sorry, 67. Yes.
67, how does that, if at all, and this may be an unfair question, how does that fly in the face of the current responsibilities that either the assessor and or the collector of revenue, which is full of responsibilities, and actually they get their power from the state statutes, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah, anything in there that conflicts with what their current responsibilities are as it relates to before this board, before the state statute changed in 2010? So here, did you meet with our assessor and meet with Mr. Daly?
Yes, actually, we did early, and we conferred with council, more than several councils, and it's been determined that the statute is clear on the ability of the district to collect its own, so we can eliminate that burden. Is that what you're getting at? Are you talking about the reporting?
No, I'm just talking about, do they view this as being additional responsibilities?
It would not be. It would not be. The district, the Missouri Clean Energy District, assesses and collects its own special property tax assessments from the property owners and reports only to the local assessor and collector.
So they don't collect.
Correct.
You say they don't collect, Chris?
They collect. So Daly wouldn't collect that portion.
The district takes on that burden itself.
So there would be an addendum on my real estate tax bill?
What will happen is that you will receive a separate bill from the district for your assessment, and
Made payable to Renovate America?
No, the Missouri Clean Energy District.
Okay.
As the
Made payable
bond,
to
as
the-
the issuer of the
Okay.
debt.
Okay.
To fund these things. And so what happens is that while the billing comes out to the property owner, the assessment is recorded with the recorder of deeds. And so, you know, while we have a robust interaction with the real estate community, which is important here, what happens is the special assessment appears on the title report, of course. And so when we have an interaction between buyer and seller, or a real estate agent, or anybody interested in prior liens or existing liens, that information is always available.
And the buyer and seller have to work out, somebody has to make that good.
Well, it could run with the
For me to get clear title.
Well, it could run with the
Like
property.
sewer bill.
So it could run with the property to the extent that, you know, it's part of the negotiation. So the negotiation could just be, you know, I'm happy to continue paying for that lien that you've decided to put on your home, and I'll, you know, pay you X for your house, and I'll continue paying for that. It could be part of the negotiation when I say, you know, I just want you to pay that off, so I'll lower the price by X, so that, you know, you take what I was gonna pay you and just pay it off. So it just becomes part of the negotiation, but it conceivably can run with the home, not with the homeowner, for the life of the term of the loan.
So, Mr. Daly's office that takes a 1.5% for collecting, that is a moot point
Yes.
in this instance?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just, if I can ask Alderman Villa, would you be more comfortable, I know you keep thinking about us lending credibility, if I add to the bill that we would only enact this if the county enacts the same legislation to the Missouri Clean Energy District? So if I were to put in this bill that it would only be enacted if the county, because I know they're doing it not in the county, would enact similar legislation so that we're not just as a city, but we're doing it now as the city county, you know, that we add into this, that it would only be enacted if the county enacts similar legislation.
I don't think that make it better. I mean.
No, I mean, but I'm trying to address,
sorry.
I'm trying to address where you're worried that the city would lend credibility. What if we only enact this if the county enacts it? We did that on the smoking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not,
We didn't?
But we'll move on.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right, we were. I know we.
Actually, Alderman, I'm not too big on the if-come, and I think St. Louis County, you know, we have our own subset of rules, regulations, and they certainly were not, I'm not very proud of how they didn't help us on the stadium issue. So, no, to answer your question, a simple no. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I don't have any further questions, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Alderman Carter.
I must be getting old because I sat here and forgot half of my questions.
Yeah, you old. You must be 30, right?
But one of the questions.
Start writing them down.
First off, gentlemen, great presentation. So what is the difference between your program and ours that we currently have the RFP out for? It's a minimal difference, right?
The authority is the same. In terms of difference, you know, if we're going in broad strokes or in specifics, I'm not clear what the question might be.
And so my detailed question is that I know with ours, we are looking forward to building a relationship with multiple banks.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you guys only deal with one. Is that correct?
No, sir. Not at all. No, sir.
Okay.
May I address that?
Yes, sir.
So, because
Please.
that's an important point of clarification. When I say capital markets, that's sort of a big, you know, generic term. But what it means is the world. It means the investor world. It means every bank on the street. It means every bank in the, not only in the United States, but in the world. Every municipal bond buyer, every insurance company, every investor of long-term fixed-rate instruments is in the game now. That's an extremely important distinction between having, you know, a handful of banks that will, you know, provide an offer for a particular transaction. what it means is we've gotten to the point, and we did the infrastructure. This is like interstate highway versus a local road or something. You know, it really is. And so what this means is that we can build, you know, local roads and, you know, and they have utility. But when we build an interstate, that means that the whole world is opened up for us, and every local road connects to it, and the utility is just exaggerated in an unbelievable way. And that exaggeration comes from the availability of every interested investor in the world. And I'm excited about that, because that means that we securitize these bonds, we make these bonds, and they can be sold to the market. And then what happens in the market is that, you know, some giant investor, you know, Warren Buffett, something says, oh, you know, I want $1 billion worth of that or something. Well, that's fine, you know. But if it was just Warren, you know, he'd want a pretty good, you know, if he was the only guy, he'd want a pretty good little nip for his rate, because he's the only guy, and he knows he is.
Right.
Well, what happens is that he's allowed to buy these bonds, but everybody else is too.
Okay.
So what happens is they're bidding. So the local bank, you know, and the bank on the corner, and the PNC that we talked about, every bank that has an investment portfolio has access to buying these now. And so what's happening is they're saying, this is St. Louis. I want St. Louis bonds. I want Missouri bonds. So I want in on this. And so Warren's not the only guy in town. I'm going to buy some of these. So that forces Warren and everybody else to take a market rate, because this is a desirable investment now. Did that help?
Yeah, but okay. So the issue, no, and it did help. But renovate America is still, it's an equity fund, right?
No. So okay, here's how the money works. All right. So the district, just like your set the pace board, that's all it is. That's all the district is too. It has the authority of Chapter 67 that was mentioned, that simply says that this is a political subdivision that has the authority under these, you know, for these purposes, to issue debt.
Right.
All right. So the issuance of that debt is for the purpose of funding Mrs. Jones's project when she calls. So she calls and she said, I need $20,000. Well, that's part of the bond issue. And that bond issue is issued by the Missouri Clean Energy District, just as it would be by Set the Pace, whatever the name of your Clean Energy Development Board is,
Right.
or anybody else's Clean Energy Development Board. That bond then is bought essentially by an investment bank.
So you are operating where now? Could I ask that?
This is Missouri, but it'll be sold to investors everywhere, including Missouri banks. So the way the investment banking piece of this works is that you know, and this happens every day at, you know, Stiefel and you know,
Right.
UMB and
Right.
all these places. It just happens every day. They structure these financial experts structure these bond issues for the issuer, which in this case is the Missouri Clean Energy District, and they structure that thing, and then they offer it to the bond market, these investors. And so anybody that they know, you know, they're incented to sell to, you know. So Stiefel
worldwide, we are dealing with you guys. We would be dealing with a worldwide
yes
range of investors.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the power of it,
and not just local banks.
Yeah, but local banks are not cut out of it. Is my
It's
point.
certainly part of it, but it's both regional, national, international. Exactly.
Okay. No further questions. Thanks. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You indicated that St. Louis would have a member on your board.
Yes.
Okay, can you explain briefly how that process works? I'm assuming it's governed by the Jefferson City Ordinance, which created the...
Yes.
Okay.
So
how does it provide for adding members?
of the board.
Right.
So, and of course, as you can imagine, you know, when we first started this concept of asking municipalities to join, we knew that they had to have a say. you know, in what was happening. But at the same time, we recognized that you had to have a workable size board so that you could operate. So the initial board was set at 5 members, all right? But each municipality that joins with the board then names, as you I think see in the ordinance here, is asked to name an elector or an advisory board member. And and it's the same thing. So that elector who is named then is involved in nominating and electing new board members.
Okay, so it's more as an ability to participate in the process?
Yes.
Not necessarily have somebody from St. Louis on the board?
Well, if someone from St. Louis is elected to the board, then absolutely, then that's what just happened.
Right, but it's not guaranteed. So, and my other question is, that could be changed by Jefferson City ordinance, correct? We have no control over how that's set up?
It's changed by bylaw of the board. So it could be changed, yes.
Okay, but Jefferson City Council could change the
Jefferson
ordinance.
City Council no longer has any authority over the Missouri Clean Energy District. It's a self-standing political subdivision. But the current board has the right to modify its bylaws, which is how you handle that kind of a change.
Like MSD.
Okay, but we have, okay.
Created it.
Gateway. By state.
Do you know who David Pickerel is?
I do.
Okay. I looked up some information on the statewide PACE program, and is it your understanding that the MCED,
Yeah.
am I getting that right?
Yeah.
MCED and Mr. Pickerel were in opposition to adding another PACE program in Missouri, the statewide program?
No, our position is, and David Pickerel is the executive director of the board, and I work with him every day. The position of the board is that we encourage as many market participants as wish to come to market, because
Okay.
we think that that's just establishing more interest and activity in the space.
Did he change his mind then? Because I had pulled a quote from him indicating that he didn't agree with adding another PACE program.
Yeah,
in
I'm not
Missouri.
familiar with that quote, but I can tell you that that's not his position, nor is it the position of the board.
Okay. Do you work with any other states with multiple PACE districts?
We work in Missouri only.
Okay.
So Renovate America in California, we're currently in California, we have 3 separate issuers. So we have Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County, and then the Western Riverside Council of Governments, and that entity, which is the acronym is WRCOG, they essentially run their county as well as all the other parts of the state that aren't either San Bernardino or Los Angeles.
Okay. What projects has MCD done in Missouri so far?
Funded. The activity has mostly been in Kansas City. We've done multifamily, residential, but it's not resident. I shouldn't say resident, but it's a multifamily commercial project. We actually did, and we just closed last week a tall building in Kansas City, down Plaza. That's a financial center. Renovating chiller boiler system and lighting and so on. We've actually done agricultural projects and as well municipal projects. We financed a wastewater project for a municipality in mid-Missouri that had a huge energy component to it.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm getting at is that the range of property types are sort of agnostic to us at this point.
Okay. How did you start working with Renovate America? Was it an RFP process or?
So in 2010, maybe a little long-winded, but in 2010, when this PACE concept came up, it really came out of California,
Mm-hmm.
because they were being successful with it, and they really started it. And people were seeing that, and
Can I put a hold on another case?
didn't want to miss recording this story.
Not me.
Not me.
It's all these little noises, like looking to see who the heck is this? It's Chris, that's who it was.
Chris causing trouble.
Did you leave your phone in here? We heard
My phone
noises.
ringing, I'm sorry. I'm a busy guy. Sometimes popular. Yeah, that is my.
Your little girl said, "Come home, Daddy."
Yeah.
I'm leaving in about 20 minutes. Gotta be somewhere.
Hey, did I tell you, she counted 10, say her ABCs.
All right, we're gonna continue the meeting now. Would you like to start all over with your story?
Yes.
You said in 2010, I asked
I
about
forgot
your
the question.
relationship
Okay,
with Renovate
okay,
America.
all right, 2010, when this all came up, why, I'm, my background's in banking, investment banking, and so, everybody trades these things around like you probably got. And so, somebody said, well, what's this? I don't know, but, so I talked to the Missouri Bankers Association. And, they run around down in Jefferson City and know what's going on generally, and they said, well, we don't know either, but we'll find, so they found out. And what happened was, we essentially became involved in the process because we thought it could be helpful. And actually, at the end of the day, in spite of some of these concerns about senior lien position and how the bankers might think about that, and how the mortgage stood up and all that, consent and all that stuff. That was an early concern, and we talked about it and decided, well, that's manageable. And so the Bankers Association really supported the thing, and it passed. So I felt a sense of responsibility at that point for trying to make something of it, and so I started working on it. And early on in that process, we needed to understand everybody in the market, in the whole market. And so we talked to everybody. And one of those that we talked to early on, that first day, was Renovate America, and the creator, the creator of Renovate America. And they were very open, just like we like to be, and just shared what they were doing, what their thoughts were, what their process was, and early on, and really kind of helped us stand up. And so, while we did, in terms of when we were ready for the residential, we went on as commercial, as I was saying, the projects got done. But when we were ready for residential, when this Freddie Fannie thing that Mr. Williams was talking about got resolved, why we were ready to go. And we knew all the players in the market, so we talked to everybody, and we talked to our board about it and said, well, here's what's in the market and here's what's offered, and the board selected Renovate America because of this robust position that they have and the back office that they're able to provide.
Okay, so you don't have like a transparent RFP process like we do here in St. Louis?
I'm not familiar with your RFP process. So I don't know how I can answer that, but our process was to interview all of the providers at the time, and then inform the board, and they made a selection.
All right. Are there any fees associated with participating in the program outside from just the interest on the loan itself?
There is a fee basis for transactions, and generally those are to provide for recording fees, because we have to put it on record, and there is a fee for a trustee, who has to handle it. It's like a bond transaction basically. These are little pieces of, you consider them mini bonds. They're not that technically, but basically that's what they are. So each of so there's a little bit of an attorney fee, and they're all put into one fee, but they're a little bit of an attorney fee and a bond counsel fee, a little bit of a trustee fee, and all of the participants that you think of in a bond transaction are involved here, and then it's just agreed that this whole thing is shrunk down to one little fee that's put into the transaction for the customer.
But that would be true, I think, in any PACE scenario. I think, I don't know that the fees are identical across PACE providers, but everybody's gonna structure it very much the same.
Sure, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't overlooking something.
Yeah.
And then, to follow up on something I asked about last week, I asked if you had had any issues at Renovate America, any legal issues. I didn't really get an answer on that, so I went online, and typically, it happens here in St. Louis too, the press will cover something, and then there's never a follow-up article, so I wanted to see if you could update me. There were a number of problems with failure to disclose tax assessments, fraudulent liens, a pattern of racketeering, inducing fear and intimidating people in Riverside County, California, Moreno Valley, San Diego, a number of other places. Can you just update us on where those stand, the investigations and lawsuits?
I don't have the specifics, and I apologize, I'm just not part of the legal team, so I don't have the specifics on those. I'm happy to follow up. I mean, I can certainly tell you that, you know, as I alluded to in my presentation, I mean, we're very focused on working with good contractor partners and trying to have exceptional customer service. So, you know, we don't get it 100% right, and our contractors don't get it 100% right at the time, unfortunately, but that's certainly our goal. I know, and some of this will be before my time. I mean, there's always going to be issues as you ramp up and as this is a new product offering.
These were all within like 2015.
Okay, fair enough. And so I apologize. I just don't know the specifics, and I'm happy to get back to you on those details. But I do think that, you know, when we look at our complaint rate, for example, in terms of complaints from homeowners to the company about work that's been done or how they've been treated by us or others, it's less than 1.5%. So we're talking, you know, 62,000 projects, and so 1.5% or less of those are getting complaints. So we want to get that to zero. I don't know that we're ever going to get there, but we really strive to have as few complaints and customer issues as possible.
Are you sure you weren't reading a cheap and tawdry novel online and conflicted the two?
What are
Thank
you,
you, Mr.
what are you
Chairman.
insinuating?
Not-
I don't have any further questions. Thank you,
We'll try to
gentlemen.
figure that out. Alderwoman Tax.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to go back over. So you're not controlled from Jefferson City. The communities are working together, and so the only thing that came from really Jefferson City is the Enabling Act that authorized you to
Yes,
to
but not
participate.
Jefferson City, the.
Jefferson City, the city, I know. not the-
Capital,
Right,
Jefferson City, city
Right.
of,
right. Okay.
because somebody has to birth the.
Somebody started.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Now, speaking with Mr. Williams, he said that he was open to you guys working together, or perhaps you could respond to our request for proposal. So is that something you would be interested in? Is that a negative plus? What's your reaction to something like that, or had you
I
even
think
thought about it?
my reaction to this whole conversation is first that we want to be collegial in this process, and we want everybody who is offering a provision of financing to property owners. We want everybody to be successful. Your specific question about responding to the RFP, you know, when we saw the RFP, well, we saw the first RFP. And the first RFP was at 2011, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what.
And I've got it in my sack there, but we were frankly working with our administrative side, was working with the two gentlemen that wound up providing administrative services for the Set the Pace program. And, you know, we were working to build this concept in Missouri, and we wound up parting company because those fellows wanted to only access limited capital. They wanted to provide, you know, sort of a captured arrangement for a particular bank.
Okay.
And we kind of, because of our background in this, we knew that wouldn't work to get some scale.
Okay.
And so we parted company. So we were aware of that, and I think the philosophy was just different. And, you know, that's all. And I think maybe, you know, I mean, we're open to helping anybody or talking with anybody, but the philosophy,
Has
to
be
our
the same.
mind, must be
Okay.
to gain the larger market.
So you're looking for economy of scales. You want just not only St. Louis City, St. Louis County, Fenton, whoever wants to
Yeah,
get in. Okay,
yeah.
all right.
And it, you know, certainly capital markets, but even just sort of operationally, you think about a contractor, and John alluded to this earlier, you know, having to figure out, well, what municipality is part of the program and not part of the program, and where can I sell, and it just becomes cumbersome, and then they're just gonna say, I'm not gonna do it because it's too hard, and I'm not gonna offer this to people because I don't know where I'm in bounds or out of bounds.
And so the reason that you need this ordinance is only because of the special assessment. That's why, to be able to put the assessment onto the tax, or senior special, I'm sorry, not, the special assessment which will give you the priority. That's why you need the.
Well, really what the ordinance does is deliver the jurisdiction in with the other members.
Okay.
So that people,
Right. You're authorized to
homeowners
do it
here
here.
may
Okay.
access the funding that we have already established.
Okay. Okay, so you deliver in the jurisdiction, so that gives you, and, you already have the right, but you don't need this for the special assessment, I thought it was like a.
The special assessment is set in statute, so.
Okay, so-
As long as you have an authorized.
Place to do it.
Jurisdiction. Political subdivision
Yes.
operating under 67,
Okay.
then that
Right.
authority has
Right.
the right to.
And it
attack.
already, in statute also gives you priority, right?
It is what it is, that's a
Right.
special assessment.
Okay, yeah, okay. And this ordinance does not give you exclusive, board bill doesn't give you exclusive
No,
right,
no, no.
so
No,
there
no,
could be.
and that's- that-
right.
did that
So
come up
if-
in-
no, that's why I wanna keep going, so
Yeah.
if another person comes behind you and they wanna
Absolutely.
do it, and
No, we
another person
encourage
wants to
that.
do it, we can,
Absolutely.
right, there's no.
Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe I should have.
No, I
thought
just
that,
want to,
but-
I'm
no.
clearing my
Yeah,
own
yeah,
brain
thank
up,
you.
okay? Okay, and so the multiple banks, so you would pick the banks, okay, because it's,
No, the banks would pick us.
okay, so they would hear about you doing this, and that's what I wanna,
Yeah.
I got lost on that again, okay?
Okay, so let me do a simple version, just a boiled down version of this. And this happens every day, and your board authorizes this kind of transaction all the time for city improvements and whatnot. So we're issuing a bond
Mhm.
to finance a project, okay? So we hire Stiefel Nicholas or
Right.
Ed Jones or somebody
Right.
as the underwriter of the bond.
Right.
And this is their specialty. They know how to use their pencil and underwrite these bonds. And so, but by underwriting the bond, what they're saying is that we're going to depend on your authority to issue debt per the statute, and we are going to establish a bond issue that we will underwrite for you. And then what we will do is, with the authority of that underwriting, we will go to the investment market. And the investment market is this giant, trillion-dollar, sort of multi-trillion-dollar behemoth that buys debt for their own purposes, to put on their securities portfolio or for whatever purpose. And there are a lot of these buyers out there, and including the local bank, including the local investor, including the local insurance company, including everybody
Mhm.
that has interest in, these type of fixed rate investments. So, Stiefel Nicholas underwrites the thing, and they call around to their investors and say, okay, we're going to come out with X million dollars on this date. How much would you like? And they get an indication of interest, and therefore pricing. And as more and more of these go out into the market, we're going to find that more people want them because they understand them now.
Okay.
And so, and an important concept here is that we have been able to, no one else in the market, we have been able to get the rating agencies to apply a AA rating to this paper.
Okay.
And what that means
Better
for,
interest rate.
what it means for Stiefel is that when they call that guy, it's about a 3-second call. They say AA, and they go, okay,
We'll do it.
and that's done. See,
Right.
so it's not a story. You don't have to push it too hard.
Okay.
That's how it works.
I like that you just used, because Stiefel helped with my credit union that had the,
Well,
had
that's
the,
one of many. But
ribbon cutting
I
yesterday.
shouldn't have
Okay.
said one name probably.
Yeah, but you said the right one. Okay, and see, I wrote mine down because I know I'm old, unlike Chris who thinks he's young. Okay. About cash. So the Alderman from the 6 talked about this lawsuit. So I kind of read something about a little quickly about that they got embroiled because it was an all-cash sale of failing to disclose. So if
This is a home sale, somebody's trying to sell their home.
somebody was trying
With
to
a
get a
lien
clear
on it?
title,
Uh-huh.
and which I don't understand, because to me, if you ran a title search,
Right.
and you, so I didn't read through all of it, it should have
Well,
appeared on the title
If
search.
that was the issue, that issue will, I mean, it would be extremely rare event, because what's gonna happen is we're gonna be required on every one of these transactions
Right.
to have that thing recorded
Right.
before it's securitized.
Exactly.
So Stifel's not buying that thing
Exactly.
unless they see on every one that it's recorded.
Well, this actually was, in the lawsuit I'm looking at, the person was suing the seller for failing to disclose, because they had all cash, and they
Well,
probably
then it
didn't,
get
probably
recorded-
didn't run,
It
right.
didn't get recorded properly then.
Right, or they didn't run the title search.
Well,
Well, and I will say-
Sometimes people, when they think they got a good deal, they don't do what they're supposed to.
That's exactly right. And so, you know, I don't know the specifics
Right, I
right
haven't
now,
finished
but-
reading it, right.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes, and that's frankly, that Hero Property Advisors Group I mentioned during my presentation, that's a fairly recent addition to our team. We've been growing rather quickly. And so it's entirely possible that the title wasn't
Right.
recorded properly, frankly. It's
Right.
entirely possible that it wasn't pulled properly.
Right.
And so that's why we have this group now, that when they see an MLS listing, they see a sale going out, they make sure that they reach out to the homeowner, remind them, hey, you've got this lien on your property, you need to work this through as part of the transaction. So that may be, you know,
Right.
part of the genesis for that.
Well, when I see all cash, that usually indicates to
Yeah,
me somebody
yeah,
thought they
you're
got a
right.
good
You're
deal.
right.
And so I know somebody who did this, and they thought they had a good deal,
All
they
kinds
didn't
of
run the title
circumstances.
search, and then 2 years
But-
later, people showed up and
Right.
said, you don't
Yeah.
live here, and had nothing to do with you,
Yeah.
okay? Right. So this one, then, they would, look them up, and I'm Miss Jones, look me up immediately, say, oh, Miss Jones got $60,000 worth of equity, I wanna spend 50,000 of that on energy savings thing. You would do that. Okay, I would sign your contract, I would have 3 days to rescind, which is usually most sales, okay? Okay, once I sign that, and I agree to do that, then, goes through the system, and, the contractor who got me to sign that, then he starts within 30 days or whatever else, he gets this done, and this is in maybe June. So, tax bills will come out in December. Will you send me something saying you're also gonna have this additional assessment that's
Yes.
going to?
yes.
But it won't be on the tax bill.
I know,
So-
right.
Per
I say
se,
you're
we're
gonna
gonna
send me
handle that
something, right.
ourselves, and so you will know immediately. In fact,
You'll-
if it's easy, you know, a lot of people, when they think about an annual tax bill,
Right.
they go, oh, you know, it's, I'm gonna have to come with a big lump of money, and so they think about impound, they have to call their
Right.
bank and stuff. We're gonna provide that utility for Mrs. Jones from the very beginning. If she would like to have monthly payments.
Oh, that's just what I was
then-
gonna ask
Then
next.
that's
Okay.
provided.
Right, so
Sure.
she can do monthly,
Yeah.
if she wanted to do every 2 months, or whatever, she can she set up
There's some
something?
flexibility in
Right,
that,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay,
But we want to avoid somebody getting a surprise at the end of the year, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, we'd rather pay every month, because if you wait 3 months, that's just a bigger bill, and then people get caught off guard. But to the extent you finished on June 30th, you probably would have your first bill, you know, August 2nd or
right,
something.
okay. Oh, okay, so as soon as you finish, you start getting your first bill.
Yeah, because it
Okay.
won't be on the tax bill. So we'll,
Okay.
and then what the district, you know, we'll collect the money and then pay the bill through the funds that we've been collecting since the project completed.
Okay, so then I've got my first bill, and if I've set it, can I set it up for yearly though, if I wanna do yearly, or is that
I'm
something you
not, I know
discourage?
for commercial and small commercial, it's absolutely, you know, it's yearly, quarterly, monthly,
'Cause that's
whatever.
how they do
But
their
I think,
bill.
I think
but I
it's-
think residential, we're gonna start with the
Monthly.
monthly,
Monthly only.
because,
Okay.
you know, people are more accustomed to that
Right, it's like
concept.
it's like a
And then-
mortgage
And then
payment.
we may
Right.
offer some other options later.
It's just a big number after a year, and we want to
Right.
limit delinquencies.
And so so I get my monthly bill, so you've already given me up front how much it's gonna cost me, and with all my interest, just like a mortgage, I get the whole disclosure
Yep.
statement saying,
Yep.
this is how much you borrowed, this is
Yeah.
how much your interest is, this is what.
Yeah.
This is what the
And-
monthly payment
right,
is.
and-
And I didn't mention, I apologize for interrupting you, but you can prepay all.
With no
or in-
penalty?
With no penalties. You can prepay all at any time, or a partial prepayment. We have a minimum threshold of $2,500 of partial prepayment, just because administratively it's somewhat challenging, so we don't want people to pay $10 more
Right.
than their bill. But so there's no penalty for that, in either
Oh,
case.
so let's just say my bill, my bill was $250 a month, maybe for residential, or maybe let's say $500 a month. So I couldn't pay $550 a month?
Well, You could, and we're actually working through the mechanics of that right now, whether your next bill would be $450 or whether your bill at the end of 12 months would be $450. Really, we want people to think of it like
Because a
bill.
lot of times that just lets you pay, you know, with mortgages, you already know, they'll let
Yeah,
you pay
you
down
speed up- speed up things.
the principal down,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay, so you haven't got that quite worked out yet.
But it's going to be a monthly amortizing loan, so to the extent that you do pay more, I think we'll probably, it'll end up looking like a loan. I think what we end up finding, or at least what we're expecting, is that people will just pay the amount, but if they win the lottery or get a bonus or something, say, you know what, I'd love to reduce that, the term of that loan, you know, I want to pay $2,500 prepayment, you're certainly capable of doing that without a penalty.
Okay, and then just to drive it home, so you collect all your own money, and the only way that it would become a problem if somebody wasn't making the payments, at that point, what do you do?
Well, there's a collection process, so
Yep.
there is a, you know, follow-up
Right.
immediately. It's just like almost any other automated system that you think
But
about.
sometimes you would, do what?
Well,
if
at
they
the end
did
of the
that,
day,
I
you
just
have.
At the
Okay.
end of the day, you have the lien on the property.
Okay, but, I mean, so would you go to do any kind of thing past just the lien? To collect, no?
Yeah.
No?
We don't do that.
Like mortgages can foreclose, okay,
No, that's,
so,
and that-
Yep.
there's the right to
We have the
foreclose
right
here
to
as well.
that's, right, I was.
But I think it's, you know, we don't wanna do, obviously.
Yeah, but I
never
mean,
want-
I'm just taking
but
it,
there
just,
is
there's,
that
okay, there's
facility.
all,
Absolutely. you
We
must
have the
do.
legal right to do it. Again, in California, we've done it, I can count it on two hands, and there were
Okay.
times we've done it with 62,000 different projects, so
Okay.
it rarely has
and if you
happened.
foreclosed, I'm just,
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
only taking it to a logical concept. So if you did a foreclosure, you would have to pay the property taxes first, because you don't have, are property taxes superior to you in your program, or is it just the pace that property taxes are superior?
The property, the special assessment property taxes are considered to be pari passu with ad valorem taxes in Missouri. So equal to ad valorem taxes. So you stand in the same place as other taxing entities.
Right.
Right. So if it came to a foreclosure process, it would be the same process as the county collector would do, or anyone else, you know, or a bank.
Yeah, but when so like when collective revenue does it, he gets his money, okay, first, okay, when they take your property
Well,
and you sell it on the tax.
The people that get the
right.
tax, in any case, the taxing entities get their.
Right, that's
their
what I'm
part
saying.
That's right.
And then, if, what you have to, I'm just taking this first, so then if you get, to get yours, and you foreclosed, then what you have to then turn around and sell it, and then, let's just say, say I got a mortgage, which is, I've subjugated. Now, and you got your money, does it say they owed you $10,000
Right.
that they had paid?
And so the bank,
Then
then the bank
if you
is
sold
standing
the
there.
property for more, would you then have to go back and pay the mortgage holder?
Well.
Or do you get to keep everything?
No.
I'm going, okay.
No, yeah, so the bank has an interest in this, and this is why this underwriting criteria is so important. Because this is not subprime.
Oh,
This is not, you know,
I'm not
this-
saying that, I'm taking it through
you
to
know,
see what
so
happens, right?
it operates as you would
Okay.
expect,
Okay.
and that's why this underwriting criteria is so important, because we don't want to get Mrs. Jones in a position where she's underwater, where that lender, that first lender, gets heartburn, you know, or gets burned by the transaction.
Okay, so could this happen, and maybe it couldn't? Let's just say, so Mrs. Jones has a mortgage, then you come along and she has equity of, let's say she had $100,000 in equity, and she wanted to use $40,000 of it. But then Mrs. Jones didn't really have enough money coming in. Could she then do a reverse mortgage too?
There's nothing prevents her from doing any of that.
That's, I'm just saying, would I see at some point Mrs. Jones is?
This fits into the market just like any other product.
Okay.
Really, it's just a lending product like any other. So
Okay.
there's no restriction in that.
Okay, long as she has equity, somebody was willing to do it, long as you
She
have
doesn't-
priority.
She
that's
doesn't have to
right.
live with, you know, that for the rest.
And I guess she could get a reverse mortgage and pay you up,
Yeah.
as you said
You
earlier.
can, you
right.
can early prepay without a penalty.
Everything that she has available to her is still available.
I think I get it. That's it, thank you.
Alderwoman Murphy.
They covered all of Very nice. Answer too.
Not gonna do it again. Alderwoman Green.
Thank you. So a couple questions. First, I want to clarify something. I think, so when you keep saying Jefferson City, you mean Jefferson City council, not Jefferson City.
Correct.
State.
Here-
State, okay.
Let me just frame that again. So when we started this, every community can start their own clean energy development board. And we knew that, and we knew to make this work, it had to be sort of this statewide concept to get to this scale that I'm talking about. And so we wanted to be pretty as agnostic as we could about location, because there's, sometimes you wouldn't believe it, but sometimes there are jealousies between communities and stuff, and so we wanted to be as agnostic as possible. And short of starting it in Mocaine, we thought, well, Jefferson City would be the natural place to do that, because that's where it came from, and it's in the middle of, so on. So the city of Jefferson initiated an ordinance, or passed an ordinance to create the district, which is now its own political subdivision, and that's how it operates as a member organization.
Okay, so why don't you guys just apply to the RFP that the PACE program here is already putting out? That's what I'm just, instead of duplicating in the same area.
Well, why didn't we respond, I think relates to this concept of philosophy. The nature of the Missouri Clean Energy District is that it knows it needs some sense of scale to have a bunch of communities come together so that we can be acceptable to the capital markets. And so that's what we've done. So if there's just one community by itself, whether it's Mocaine or St. Louis, it's really not large enough to get the interest of the capital markets, because frankly they're voracious, and they don't create a machine unless there's some hope of a lot of something going through it.
Okay, so then you would end up being, basically, if this came to St. Louis, you would be or Renovate America would be the exclusive lender of the Missouri, the MCED.
Okay, so the way that works is that the Missouri Clean Energy District has established a relationship with Renovate, mostly because of their technological facility and their energy expertise and management in terms of handling transactions. The capital, as I mentioned before, comes from the bond market, which is, everybody, which is everybody.
Which is the same capital that we have access to through the current PACE program.
I don't know exactly the capital. I can't speak to the capital that you have with your current market. But what was mentioned earlier was PNC, and what that would indicate to me is that you have one type of lender, and that's fine. But what we have is the municipal bond market, which sells securities to every bank on the street. So essentially what that means is that you have every bank possible that's a lender.
But also say, just to be clear, it's not a binary proposition. It's not us or them. I think what we're saying is this is really, they're complementary, and that more competition is better frankly, for PACE. It's better for the community because there's going to be more shots on goal. And so it's not that you do this and you can't do that. Frankly, you can do both, and I think that's what we'd be fine saying, what we'd like to see.
Okay, so then the other question I have is, so that the applicant or the person who is getting the work done in their house or whatever, they would not be able to choose who the lender is through this. That choice is made through Renovate America.
Well, that choice is made through the district, and that choice is the entire market. So we're in a very...
But they don't have the option to say, like, I don't want to do business with this bank or this lender.
Oh, okay, so
that's taken out of the hand of
let me
the applicant.
put it this way. So there are several components to this, and we currently are doing commercial work, and we have any number of investors, banks, and so on that participate in that arena, and they're in that investor pool with us because they are in a position to buy a large transaction, $1 million, $2 million, several $1 million transaction, right, and book that themselves. But when you have a Mrs. Jones who needs a $10,000 retrofit on her property or something, those guys, they're that's not the type of transaction they want. So what you have to do is buy these transactions in from Mrs. Jones and others, and then go to the capital markets with a bond issue that's big enough to be efficient, 10 million, 20, whatever, 100 million, whatever it is. And then at that point, and that's why I'm saying that you have the entire investor market available to you.
But that whole capital market experience is really transparent to the homeowner. What the homeowner is really choosing is between Renovate America and whoever the providers who set the pace, and if there's 5 or 10 others.
That's right.
Really who the homeowner is dealing with is us. And so, as John alluded to, I think what we have in terms of the technology and the customer service and everything else, that's what the homeowner is going to see, that's what they're going to feel. What goes on in the securitization and in the bonding process, that's all transparent. They
That
get
was
the work
inside
done.
ball. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
that is inside baseball.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, a minute ago, Alderwoman Ingrassi was asking about the fees. I think, are there caps on the fees that you can charge?
Yeah, the board has authorized a fee basis for the transactions, which I think are, so there is a cap. I'm going to say a number here, but I'm not real. I think it's like, the cap would be like 4%, which would handle all of these little bits and pieces of the transaction costs that I was talking about earlier, the bond counsel, the trustee, the collector, all these things. So, and that's just put into the transaction.
Okay. And then what safeguards are there against or oversight against predatory lending?
Well, so again, these are fixed rate loans, so the rate doesn't adjust. So we're talking 5 to 8% for the life of the loan. So if you take out a 5-year term loan, it's going to be 5 something. I don't know the exact number. So it doesn't change. It's an amortizing loan, so you're paying down principal and interest with every payment. So this really, and again, you're looking at the on that slide I showed, 710 FICO score. We're not targeting individuals with low credit scores. I mean, we're trying to find people who are going to repay, frankly, and we're not using any sort of financial gimmicks. This is just a fixed rate term loan that amortizes over time.
So obviously, you guys must make a lot of money off of this, or you wouldn't be here trying to do this. How do you make your money off of the fee structure, or how does?
So Renovate America, it's back to the sort of inside baseball discussion. So we have a very small component of that 4% fee. Renovate America takes about half of it, about 2%, but that's not a huge amount. Where Renovate America makes its money is on the inside baseball again. As we securitize the loans and sell those into the marketplace, we make money on the spread between what the investors are willing to pay for those consolidated loans and the consolidated bonds, better said, and the cost of interest on the bonds themselves. And I would say again, everything we've been talking about in terms of the inside baseball and all that, that's not exclusive to us. I mean, that's essentially how the PACE industry works. So that's not a Renovate America particular issue. That's the way PACE works.
Okay. And then, so I did a little bit of internet sleuthing as well. So you're not registered with the BBB?
I will assume that that's the case. If that's what the internet tells you, I don't know for certain.
I will say that there are quite a few reviews on Yelp of your program in San Diego, and it's not doesn't look very good for you guys. And it's not just the problems with transferring over from one owner to another. A lot of the complaints seem to be about contractors not completing their work in a decent amount of time, or having problems with the contractors that are referred to them. So how, given that you are not a St. Louis local business, how is there oversight there that that the contractors that you're working with actually would do the work? And
well, we're certainly, and we're building the team right now, we're going to have boots on the ground in Missouri. There's no doubt about that. We're going to need to have boots on the ground. Well, the corporate headquarters will remain in San Diego, and some of that back office will remain in San Diego. We're going to need to have people here to manage that. As I said, we would like to bat 1,000. We're not going to do that, but that's certainly our goal. I do think that having that stick about not paying contractors until the work is done to the satisfaction of the homeowners is important. And I don't know when those folks wrote their Yelp reviews within the process, and it may be that they were frustrated because it hadn't been done right. But the contractor, I can almost assure you, hadn't been paid, and they probably did get it done right. We do a lot of work in terms of the data I showed here and NPS scores and other things to try to really understand how homeowners feel about us, and I would say it's overwhelmingly positive. my default to Yelp is that you really go on Yelp if you really love something or really hate it. I think that there's a big swath in the middle that is fine with things, that probably doesn't go on Yelp and report things, but that doesn't mean we don't take each of those things seriously. And again, we have this compliance team. We want about 1,000, so to the extent we hear something or we see something, we'll follow up. We've got this team of folks who will go out and resolve disputes and make sure that homeowners are happy. Because at the end of the day, you know, we're not going to make any money if we have a whole bunch of Yelp reviews that aren't very satisfactory. We need to have happy customers, and we need to have contractors that are doing the right things, or else this business isn't going to sustain itself. And so that's really the goal of what we try to do.
And from the district's perspective, you know, that's certainly a concern that we talked about early on, is that, you know, we want to make sure that we have a presence here, and there are going to be offices in Kansas City, there'll be one in St. Louis, there'll be one in the middle of the state, to address these issues. And the impressive thing to me and the board was that these things are going to, you know, things happen, you know, and things come up. The question is how they're dealt with. And we were extremely impressed by Renovate's ability and just willingness to staff a consumer protection office, basically, and they have I don't know how many, it's a dozen or more law enforcement people who actually go out and follow up and on every one of these complaints and establish what the issue is. You know, it's not every time that it's the you know, sometimes the property owner is not, you know, reasonable or something, but the issue is to get it resolved and properly, and we were very impressed with their sort of infrastructure to deal with that.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Alderman Villa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, I'm going to borrow your terminology. In a spirit of collegiality, who are the local investors in St. Louis that are involved in this? Is that a fair question? And if it isn't, don't answer it.
I believe it's not a question for me. Who are the investors in our program or in the Set the Pace program?
Are there any local interests involved that would